Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of exciting and absolutely mouth-watering racing action in the one and only SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship Season 12 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. That's right folks, the story of Season 12 continues today, and with round number 8 to 10 on the cards, we have made our way all the way to France, the one and only Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours. Located in the French countryside and once a staple of the FIA Formula 1 calendar, well, it has handed over the reins of the French Grand Prix to Circuit Paul Ricard as the 2010s, and understand it's because of its remote location out in the French countryside. However, whilst it is a difficult circuit to get to and a very difficult one to spectate from, those who make the trip to this circuit and get ready to take on its tarmac will find they've got a 17-corner course that's absolutely brimming with variety. Over the course of its corners and its 2.74 mile length, it draws inspiration from many a circuit around the globe, where it be the infamous hairpin of Adelaide, the sweeping bends at Estoril, or take the chicanes of Imola and the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. You name it, the circuit's got it, and it's also got its own unique features, including the Grande Courbe bend at turns 1 and 2, and also the complex Delisle for the final 3 quarters, which see our drivers to be very much on their toes. They tackle hairpins, sweepers and chicanes all in a mix. Add to that a couple of straights as well, and what it means is you've got a circuit here which is very difficult to overtake at, and track position is going to be absolutely critical, but never shake away the fault of a good strategy, because that can enable a driver to leap into lead and make sure they're the one who's leading the way rather than playing for the leader. And with points becoming precious and running out with rounds, well, who exactly is going to go to town today and bring home the big points? Because after this, we've got 2 rounds to go. Indeed, for all the drivers right now, everything could really be becoming to a boiling point. But where are my manners? I've got ahead of myself, have I not? Welcome to you all as you tune in tonight to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you catch up with all the racing action live on the circuit from our Superstar split. Indeed, we've got another round of racing for our superstars, 1 hour of racing to wait, and this broadcast being brought to you in one place you can catch it on all a weekly basis. And there's, of course, on SimRacing International's YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com and search for SRI or SimRacing International, and you could be tuning in there. In the content booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds in the Superstars split this season. But remember, of course, you've got 2 broadcasts going on in parallel. You also do have the live circuit side broadcast on the Master split, but the rules are just that little bit stricter when it comes to the instant points and also of the rules around fast repairs and whatnot, and that's being brought to you live from the circuit side by the very talented duo of Chaz Draycott and Darren Thacker. But still, you're with me, and as we continue this story and continue this journey, well, let's give you a recap of what happened last time out in round number 7 and how the points are poised in our championship standings. For as we can see, as we make our way into another round of racing action. This time out, well, we are here in France. But before that, back in round number 7, we made our way to Japan for the second and final time this season for the Suzuka International Racing Course. There's Grand Prix Circuit on the 14th of May. What exactly did we get to see in our rain-fueled race? We had a 1-hour race, of course. That's where we differed from the Masters in terms of the race format, where they had 2 30-minute sprints. But with our single 1-hour race, we got to see plenty of headlines be made. Firstly, of course, the wet conditions definitely proved to see that it was right at the start of qualifying that things would become a little bit soggy, and therefore you had to get out on the circuit very quickly on a slick tyre and try to pump out a good lap. And those who did on the opening flying lap, they only got 1 flying lap, they absolutely excelled. Meanwhile, other drivers and plenty of big names did not excel in qualifying and had to do laps on what was very wet, slick tyres, or alternatively had to go to the wet tyre and try to salvage something out of the qualifying session. And so it meant many missed out, including Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis and Leon Seeley in the Pro class. The Samantha racing pair really struggled in qualifying. Meanwhile, in the interclass, Sam Hockley and Luke van Goertel also had difficulty, and Ashley Sharksmith, one of our wet weather masters, really had difficulty as well in the club class. However, when we did go into the race itself, well, the wet conditions proved very challenging for many, with some big names involved in early instance. These were either self-inflicted or with other drivers. This included Elliot Court, the man who took pole position overall in Pro, his maiden pole position of the season, but it all slipped out of his grasp right at the start of the race. Jack Giles in club as well, normally very quick for Eurotitans endurance, and it all went very much backwards for him early on, and Mikhail Abasek as well in the interclass, who had to go on quite the recovery drive. But when the rain started to stop, the racing calmed down. It became a question then of who would transition to the slick first, and several went a bit too soon, some went a little bit too late, and some just got it absolutely right, including Bobby Moss in the interclass, and also Andy Jones in the Pro class. But there were also some who dared to stay on the wet tyre, Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis and Richard Simnor in the Pro class, and they thought they pulled off a bit of a magic trick by doing so, and in the end it all went very wrong for them, because suddenly their wet tyres were boiling hot. They had no rubber left, and they fell down the order, and it meant suddenly some drivers were able to make their way very quickly through and go on to take some very beautiful points. Speaking of which, it was a beautiful day in the office of the pro and overall winner of Raz Harper. He took his best qualifying points of the season with third in pro and overall. He was only 2/10 off the pole time set by his teammate of Elliott Court. But when the DDK Racing with RaceStat.com drivers went racing, well, it was Raz Harper who went full attack at the start, and he pressured Brandon Dyer for the lead relentlessly as his teammate Court struggled, and then Dyer and Harper made the way into first and second respectively, and shortly after was a big error for Brandon Dyer on lap number 6, and that handed over the lead to Harper, at which point he then lost the lead to an incredibly quick Richard Simnor on lap 13. So at that point, it seems that the DCW Racing Blue driver was going to be on course to take the win, but not quite so, because Harper pitted at the right time to go to the slick tyre, and with Simnor staying on his wet tyres, Harper was able to take the lead off of him after chasing him down, and in the end, he was able to bring home his first win of the season, but only by a quarter of a second, because Nils Balkaga was rapidly closing him down for NJP performance in the very last couple of laps. Meanwhile, in the interclass, it was Bobby Moss who absolutely delivered a brilliant win. Now, to be fair, his second win of the season, it didn't look like it was going to be a win when we started the day off. In the fact we saw him take fourth in class because he was not quite able to get a good lap together on the slick tyre before the circuit got too wet. But in the race, he made rapid progress in the wet, albeit had a spin on lap number 7, which we didn't catch on camera, but it reset his progress and he had to give it another go. But that restart definitely worked out for him. He didn't give up and fought his way back up through the field with off-track inconsistencies for so many of his rivals, but most notably, of course, Jared Love, the championship leader, and well, that handed the lead to Moss on lap 14 just before the pit stops. After that, it was Moss versus Love all the way to the very end, and Bobby Moss was able to hold on for the class win and third place overall by just shy of half a second, but Jared Love was right there with him. And meanwhile, in the club class, where it was Adam Lynch, who was beaten to class pole position by an impressive lap from Jack Giles, who was 4/10 of a second faster, but it all went very much backwards on the opening 2 laps of Jack Giles, where a major incident on lap number 2 forced him to retire, and it handed the lead over to Adam Lynch, and at that point onwards, Adam had no real contest to worry about other than beating the circuit and making sure to play fair with the pros and also the interdrives around him, and he was able to bring home the win. However, do keep in mind that Rob Gregg for Moonshiners Racing Club really came alive when we transitioned onto the slick tyre, and he was only 6/10 behind at the finish, but it was the third win of the season for Adam Lynch. So those are the big winners. Those are the headlines last time out from Suzuka, but here we are today then for round number 8 of the Magny-Cours circuit. It's a 1-hour race, whether you're in Masters or Superstars. We've got sunny skies and clouds expected, not a drop of rain in sight, and now let's bring you up to speed with the championship standings as we head into today. Because as we can see, in the pro class, first and foremost, Milton Tomlinson-Dennis. He is now only ahead of Richard Simnor based on result countback. You could not make up the story here because your top 4, really, this is the big point here of the pro class, your top 4 are separated by 18 points. It is incredibly tight, and do not rule out 5th place man Nils Balkaga, although sadly you do have to start to rule out Leon Seeley, who will not be able to make this round due to personal circumstances, so therefore he'll have 2 0 scores, one of which is dropped, and that will be his round number 3 performance, but unfortunately he will not be able to drop this round, and he will take a 0 going forward. So therefore we have 5 drivers in the hunt for the title still, the 5 main contenders, but it's the leading 4 that are of interest, with Milton Tomlinson-Dennis with 3 wins, only ahead of Richard Simnor based on that countback, and Richard Simnor missed out on the opportunity to try and make it 2 wins in a row last time out for DCW Racing Blue. Brandon Dyer, meanwhile, well, he threw it all away, some would say, with his instant early on at Suzuka, and it could have been his second win of the season, but instead it was a recovery drive to 3rd place, but the Altitude 3M Esports driver is not giving up hope. Conversely, Raz Harper, well, if you looked at the earlier portion of the season, particularly round number 4, you would have thought the DDK Racing Team driver would have given up hope. We caught up with him after the race, and he had the pleasure of telling us the fact that he was so pleased to have taken his first win on the board, and only got it absolutely right on strategy when everyone else was getting it so wrong. Nils Balkaga, meanwhile, a further 38 points behind in 5th place, the German driver. Well, of course, we saw how formidable he was in the wet at Fuji a few rounds ago, and he almost made it another win himself. He just needed one more lap in his Lamborghini Huracan Evo. But it wasn't quite to work out for him, and therefore he's got to work a bit harder today, because otherwise he's the outsider currently in terms of his championship charge, and Leon Seeley in 6th place there on 356 points. Now, with a 0 today, his priority is most likely going to be to making sure he secures that 6th place and tries to tap on the heels of our 5th place man come the very end of the season. In 7th, it's Ben Woodgate, a retirement for him last time for the Inter-Racing team. Things didn't quite go right, but meanwhile for Daniel Page, he was so close to his first podium, but unfortunately the Daniel Newman Racing Red Drive wasn't quite able to get there, and he sits on 294 points. He's 50 ahead of Corey Price, and unfortunately for the Darkwing Racing Drive, things went up at first in the wet, but when we did go to the dry, he couldn't quite get it right. That transitional period really catching him out, and the Dutchman still ahead of his fellow country countryman and Joris Peters' team, but the gap is only at 14 points. Elliot Court sits in 11th place there, and what a day it could have been at Suzuka, but it did seem as though for all the impressive points in the qualifying session, it all fell out of control in the race, and you definitely need to be looking at what exactly happened there. But the DDK Racing Team driver slips to 11th place on 220 points, and he is only 14 ahead of Charlie Walker. But meanwhile, we then come to the Interclass, and here we can see DDK Racing Team, whilst one of their pro drivers is struggling, one of them in the Interclass is absolutely thriving, and that is Jared Love. Now, understandably, Bobby Moss has reeled in the gap a little bit. The gap is now down to 36 points, but Love still has the advantage, and indeed, after taking second place in that race, after pole position, it didn't quite work out in the end, given the mistake he made late on in the first stint, where he slipped to second. He almost took the lead back, but he needed one more lap to do so. So we do have our two main contenders, it would seem, the DDK Racing driver and also the SimRacing collective machinery of Bobby Moss, with back-to-back wins right now. If he makes it one more, he'll be on equal on wins versus Jared Love, and he will be ahead based on count back should they tie, because he'll have 2 seconds to Love's 1. But meanwhile, Sam Hockley, well, his job is not done yet, you could understandably say, with the privateer. It was not the day in the office he wanted. He did manage to salvage a 4th place at Suzuka, but he wanted a lot more. He wanted another podium. That streak has come to a bit of a stop. However, he is comfortably ahead of Ross Young, and for Hockley, he finds himself in no man's land, and he needs to try and find some land to settle on. Now, will he be able to close down the gap to the top 2 today, or will he find himself making sure he fends off the rest of the field? Because Ross Young, being almost 100 points behind, 82 to be a bit precise, the Clarkson James with Dexterous Motorsports driver still trying to get himself right back up there, and took his first podium last time out. A brilliant drive from the Ferrari driver. Behind the Scotsman, it's Adam Smith, a further 14 points adrift for Eurotitans Endurance. But meanwhile, you can see there on his 324 points, he in turn is only 18 ahead of Brad Pickett, the other member of the Clarkson James with Dexterous Motorsports team. And right now, for Brad Pickett, it was a non-finish last time out, and he slipped down to 6th place. And Villa Cotonen won't be catching him, of course, because Villa Cotonen not on the grid for the remainder of the season due to an injury. And we hope to see him back in a future season, and we do hope his recovery is going well. And the Beowulf Racing Team driver on 278 points, he may be at risk of losing out, but not to Nicholas Carlson, his teammate, who has also retired in solidarity with Cotonen. And we do see Carl Roy then in 9th place, a non-finish last time out, and with the access in spots with SimWorks driver, when I was catching up with him in the build-up to today, or I should say really spying down in the garages here at Suzuka, he was saying to a couple of the other drivers he's not really had the chance to practice for what was at Magny-Cours, and therefore he'll be hoping that perhaps it's all going to work out if he improvises on the day. Well, I'll tell you one thing, he's currently the provisional pole sitter in the Interclass, so therefore that improvisation is definitely working out for him. Mark Collicott sits in 10th place, a DCW Racing Blue, and taking that podium back in round number 6. Well, he wasn't on the grid last time out in round number 7, but we hope to see him back today. It's Alfred Kirstein and Luke Van Gertel who complete your top 12 in the Interclass, with Van Gertel having a double DNF. And meanwhile, for Kirstein, it has been back-to-back top 10s, including his first top 5 of the season last time out, and well done to the Dane. Then to the club class we go, and here we can see Adam Lynch with his 3rd win on the board. He's had an absolutely faultless run of podiums, excluding his drop round, and what it does mean right now, he is the man to beat, and Jack Giles would like to be close to him for that retirement last time out. Well, it becomes his drop score, thankfully. He does not add that as a 0 to his score, but he knows, right, the pressure is on him to try and close that gap up. He was the pole sitter, but in the end, it all fell out of control. Where that was Adam Lynch, it all came into control. Ashley Shuck Smith as well, a 9th place finish was the best he could achieve at the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. It wasn't his day in the office to remember, and the priority right now on 386 points, only 2 ahead of Christopher Petty, who has gradually closed that gap down. But from the 2 privateers, it's then a further 52 points to Jordan Butler, the full tilt virtual motorsport driver, right now looking to try and close onto that podium, but he's within the spots for what will be your trophies. However, he has only 4 points between himself and Rob Gregg, with the first podium this season for the Moonshiners Racing Club driver last time out, and both him and James Fraser were looking very quick in the wet conditions, and as it got drier, Rob Gregg really came alive. We was hoping perhaps for one more lap to try and take his first win, but still, you never know what could happen today. Eddie Theobald sits in 7th place, and after his run of podiums, that came to a halt in Japan, but on 324 points, he's still well within the hunt of a top 5 for this season, as is James Fraser, only 2 points behind for Moonshiners Racing Club, and understandably, James, after that elbow out at turns 1 and 2 midway through the race, well, the British driver now knowing he's got a bit more work to do. But do not count out Steve Hughes either, taking his 2nd podium of the season last time out. The team at UK Sim Racing with three-wheeler racing driver from Wales. He'll feel as though he's got the right to be inside that top 5 at the end of the season. And Philip Harris, a further 26 points behind. Well, it was the 5th place for him last time out, but contributing very valuable points to his team and also trying to make his way into that top 7 if he can. Dwayne Hoffman in 11th there, best dressed and 270 points. And it's Arno Proud who completes the run of the top 12 of the club standings. But that's all the Drivers' Championship standings for the Superstars. What about the Teams' Championship across our Superstars and Master Splits? Well, the big headline act is that Glass Tech Racing are continuing to lead, and they did have mixed fortunes last time out in the sprint races at Suzuka, because of course they are all in the Master Split, but a lot of drivers in the Master Split all had mixed fortunes, so therefore their lead has increased, even though they didn't want to increase by so little, but they found a way to increase it, none so, and right now it does seem as though Glass Tech Racing are starting to carve out what will be this crown for themselves. But DDK Racing Team with RaceStatBot.com, they sit in second on 998 points, and they right now have got to look behind them because they have fast approaching them Eurotitans Endurance, who are definitely trying to stay on their toes, and while they were second going to Suzuka, they've dropped to third, but they want to try and come back at the DDK Racing Team once again, and will DDK Racing have returned to second place after that very strong round, of course, with a maiden win for Raz Harper. Dexterous Motorsport Cyan, well, their story is one whereby they've moved from 5th to 4th, they're continuing their gradual gains, but they've got some work to do if they want to get into that top 3, and also Axis Sim Sports with SimCoach only 14 points behind, they may be looking behind rather than forward. LS Racing, they sit in 6th, the first team to be outside of the trophy positions, and for them, they've moved from 7th to 6th, and they're quickly approaching the top 5. They need to make a clean break from the rest of the top 10, and goodness me, how close it is for the rest of the top 10. Samantha Racing in 7th place, only 18 points behind, is in a further 27 points to Darkwing Racing, and then a further 15 points to DCW Racing Blue, and a further 2 to Axis Sim Sports with SimWorks. The big theme is that right now all these teams are jostling hard for position. Samantha Racing, understandably, what was looking to be a golden opportunity to secure some huge points. They had it all go the wrong way last time out, and therefore they've got to bounce back. But with Leon Seeley not on the grid for this round, and only Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis, we can understand if MTD is going to be going all in here to try and double it all up for the team. But outside the top 10, from the 756 points of Axis Sim Sports with SimWorks, you have Barbecue Bread Racing, who slipped from 8th to 11th for a very difficult round in Japan last time out, and while we're 10th through to 13th, separated by only 36 points, it shows how close it is to be inside that top 10, let alone to try and chase after a 5th place spot, and with it try to take home a trophy at the end of this season. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's tell you a little bit about our host circuit for today. And of course, we are racing at the Magny-Cours Grand Prix circuit, known in full as the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours, but it takes its name from the local town of Magny-Cours. Located in the department of Nièvre, in the region of Bourgogne-Franche-Comté of France. This circuit spans 2.74 miles or 4.41 kilometres, depending on your preference units, but what doesn't change is the number of corners, 17 of them in total. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com for their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps contained within it. And as we can see here, this circuit absolutely iconic, particularly if you're a big fan of motorsport in the 1990s and 2000s, where this circuit really came to prominence. And it was, of course, the site of the first circuit where a Formula 1 driver was to take 7 Grand Prix wins at the same circuit, that being Michael Schumacher, but of course that record has gone on to be broken by Lewis Hamilton at other circuits over the course of the last couple of decades. But with GT World Challenge Europe making its way to this circuit on an annual basis, this definitely is one of those circuits whereby it's an absolutely loved one for closed cockpit and closed wheel racing. Well, we would like to walk you around a lap. I think it's better if we do so when we look on board, ladies and gentlemen, rather than try to talk you through a circuit map. But what you do need to know is the main overtaking zones at this circuit. Turn number 5 at Adelaide Hairpin, inspired by the Australian circuit. Also 180-degree bend at turn number 9, the second of the hairpins, and also going into the Chateau de Eau at turn number 14 after exiting the Imla chicane, and then the run down towards Lacey Hairpin at turn number 15. But of course, it requires drivers to battle on the brakes and be very close from the outset. We're qualifying close to wrapping up. Let's head back to circuit side and see how they're all getting on. And as this qualifying session definitely ticks along very nicely, we do have the best part. Around about 13 minutes left to go. We look to Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis, who's currently the provisional pole sitter, both in pro and overall. Now he is on a 35.496, only 700ths quicker. The man who definitely seems to have anchored himself to be a main rival to the Samantha Racing drivers of Richard Simnor. Now we do know, of course, that Richard sees Leon Seeley as his target man, in the fact they've both been in the Corvette Z06 GT3 C8 Stingray model for this season, and Seeley typically has been the quicker of the two drivers over a single lap, if not over race distance, and Richard Simnor has been using Seeley as his reference marker, and if he's able to match Seeley in qualifying over the race distance or surpass him, then he knows he's done a good job for the day. Of course, this Corvette, not the most popular of cars in GT3, it is one of those cars whereby it's got a lot of intricacies, particularly with the way it delivers its torque to the rear wheels, but also the aerodynamic and the weight distribution, whereby it's similar to the Ferrari 296, but it has a bit of an American twist on it, particularly when it comes to the amount of muscle and also the way the body is shaped. But Simnor makes his way down towards Lacey. We can see here right now, currently the second fastest, and Charlie Walker, the relentless racing driver. Well, this is a very impressive qualifying performance so far from the BMW M4 Evo driver. He is currently a 10th quicker than Elliott Court, but conversely, first. He is 2 tenths behind the top 2, so he knows there's a bit of work to do, but even so, if he's able to nail this third place on the grid, this would be his best qualifying performance of the season by some margin. So that's what we're hoping for here, that he can get this all together, and if so, well, it's definitely going to be a bit of a celebration down in the garage for Relentless Racing before we do go racing. But outside of the pros, you have to go to 9th place overall to find Jared Love, but you find him right behind Walker on the circuit as he makes his way around there on the 210 at Ferrari 296. Well, currently the championship leader is looking quite cosy when it comes to being the best part of 800s quicker than Luke van Goertel, who is directly behind him on the overall classification in 10th. And right now, the Dutchman for MJK Sim Racing, well, this is where we typically expect to see him. He's had these moments of incredible brilliance, particularly in wet weather conditions. Indeed, we have to think back to Fuji, where he absolutely flew high. However, it does seem as though in the dry, it's either very much hit or miss for Van Goertel. And here today, he's definitely making a big hit. But can he make a big splash when it comes to points? Meanwhile, Kyle Wright, well, he was, when we did take a look a bit earlier, he was the provisional pole sitter for the first 20 minutes of this qualifying session in the Interclass. He's fallen to 3rd in the class and 12th overall, but the Aston Martin V8 Vantage Evo driver is definitely looking quite quick at the moment. We'll have to wait and see whether this translates into an impressive performance today. Meanwhile, if you go all the way down to 18th, there you'll find your club provisional pole sitter currently, and that is none other than Adam Lynch. Adam Lynch is definitely looking to be quite quick at the moment, given the fact that he does have a sizable gap to the tune of half a tenth to none other than Jack Giles. Now, you might be sat there thinking, well, if it's only half a tenth, how is it a sizable gap? You've got that wrong, surely. Well, do keep in mind, within that space, he's fitting the pros of Ben Chamasi, Ben Woodgate and Justin Noel, and also the inter-driver of Martin Kenyon. So therefore, half a tenth in this situation for Jack Giles is going to feel as though it's a mountain to climb when you've got so many drivers so closely spaced. And keep in mind, he's only 4 thousandths behind Justin Noel to show you the closeness of this qualifying order. And we've seen that time and time again this season, just how close they can be. Now, all the drivers out there on the dry tyre, that's to be expected as they make the way around. Nobody is going to be on a wet tyre today. But if anybody was to brave a wet tyre, I'd definitely say that perhaps here they've decided that they've been influenced by all the wet weather they've seen over the last, what is, round or so. But understandably, I don't think we're seeing anybody taking wet tyres to go today. But as they all make the way around, well, also keep in mind that a little bit behind Jack Giles, we do have there, a little bit further adrift from him, none other than Philip Harris. And currently, teammate to Jack Giles, of course, looking for one of his best qualifying performances of the season. He's out the car in the pit lane, so unfortunately we can't cut to the car in the pit lane. But Jordan Butler's the full fastest of your club drivers, and the club drivers all very closely matched, it would seem. Dwayne Hoffman being down in 35th place there, the last of our runners in this qualifying session. And we only have 35 drivers who made the trip to France today. And again, that remote location for the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours definitely putting some drivers off, and I do think not all teams are able to make the trek. And well, one of the big changes of this circuit, one of the reasons why it has been scrapped from several series over the last couple of years, it's not just because of the logistics of getting to it. Indeed, you could say in a way this is very similar to the Okayama International Racing Course in Japan, which used to be the in place to go racing until it was discovered it was very remote in terms of where you had to get to go racing as a spectator or a team. But the reason why the circuit definitely has become a little bit less used than perhaps before is the fact from the spectators' perspective, it's very hard to put grandstands around the circuit given the way it weaves and flows in amongst itself, and therefore the visibility for the spectators is relegated to particular zones, such as the Adelaide hairpin at turn number 5. You don't really have a major grandstand on the start-finish straight, or you do on the outside of the final 2 quarters, but you don't go into turn 1. It really is a difficult one to get a good view of the circuit at compared to other circuits which are quite close to it, such as Paul Ricard in the same country, or alternatively Silverstone, which is only across the channel in the United Kingdom. But as all these drivers make the way around, we do say hello to Leon Seeley there in the YouTube chat. And good to see you tuning in, Leon. Of course, unfortunate we can't see you on the grid today because you're absolutely massively missed. And, well, we do love to see both of the Samantha racing machines out there. But to be fair, the one that is out there right now, I think it's trying to do the utmost of the 2 of you there. I think you sprinkled on a bit of your pace to Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis. He's no slouch, to be fair, but definitely right now he knows he's trying to make up for the pair of you today. And, well, the 329 drive doing brilliantly. Also, he needs to make up for the lost ground from Suzuka. But as we also do say hello to Denny Ploger there, who says, have fun, Paul, I'll be watching. And, well, thank you, Denny, and glad to have you tuning in. Saying house renovation, so I've no energy anymore to race day, and understandable. And, well, sometimes you need to listen to your body and say it's time to take a bit of a rest. But we still do have MJK Sim Racing machines out there, including the Van Goertel, of course, we spoke about earlier on. Do we have Arno Prague here today? I do not believe so. So I think we just have the one MJK Sim Racing car. Still great to see that we do have a representative from the team out there. But as we also do say hello to All About the Gyro, aka none other than the mastermind behind Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport of Dwayne Hoffman, currently parked up in the pit lane and sending the messages from inside the car. I wonder where he puts his mobile phone in that car, to be fair. And he says, so my Lamborghini is so obstinate in the corners, I'm a talk in the naughty corner. So he's decided to have a chat with the car, and Dwayne's making his way back out there, so he's decided to have a bit of a talk. Now, has he been firm with his words, or has he been good cop to the car? We're not quite sure, but either way, we'll have to see whether he can cop himself a better lap now. And we wish him all the best luck in that endeavour. You can never count out Dwayne, to be fair. We have seen some very impressive performances from him in this season, not just in the GT3 Championship, which you're tuning into today, but of course the Friday GTE Championship, and he is the only driver in the series history thus far in the club class to do a last-to-first change successfully. He pulled off an absolute miracle win, and well, when we say miracle, it's not that he had all the luck come his way. He put together an incredible drive, but he would say it was a miracle to make Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport shine high, and the second 1-2 in the club class of the season at Watkins Glen only a couple of weeks ago. But still, that's another series. Let's come back to the series we're here to look at today, and as Jared Love makes his way through the last couple of quarters, let's jump on board with him to see what it looks like to do a flying lap of the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours. Coming out the final corner and roaring his way down towards turn number 1. As he does so, coming in towards the Grande Curve at turns 1 and 2, and makes his way through the left-hander, flat out through the open 2 corners, and now straighten up the car and onto the brakes here for Estoril Bend, inspired, of course, by the wonderful Brazilian circuit. Makes his way through turn number 3, and as he does so, will run his way out using all the runoff air. They're allowed to do so as long as they keep 2 wheels on the white and red painted surfaces, and now makes his way up towards the hairpin of turn number 5. Heading through goal for this point, in fact, weaving from side to side, so I wonder if Love's perhaps invalidated his lap by running just a little bit too wide out free, but was down board anyway, breaking 150 metres from corner apex down to first gear Adelaide, and now on to about immediately makes his way out using all the runoff area once again. Heading up towards what will be the next braking zone, as he does so in towards the Nürburgring chicane, inspired by, of course, the Wiedel chicane. Makes his way right into left here, making sure not to hit the curbs too high, and now in towards 180-degree bend at turn number 9. Braking about 150 metres from corner apex. It's a very late apex here, you have to trail off. As he rolls out the corner, he now makes his way through the kink of 10 and up towards the Imola chicane at turns 11 and 12. Now, this is a very difficult chicane here, although Love weaving from side to side won't be going full speed into it because you brake over a blind crest. You don't actually see turn 11, and then suddenly it springs up in front of you, and then over to the left-hand side he'll go in towards what will be the Chateau de hairpin of turn 13. Now coming down the hill through the kink of 14, also known as what will be the curve, and rolling his way up towards the complex de Lycée, or the Lycée hairpin, followed by the Lycée chicane. Onto the brakes he goes there, braking about 120 metres from corner apex down to second gear, and will now he'll try to straight line the apexes together at turns 16 and 17 to complete lap and do it all over again. But that was not a full attack lap from Jared Love. It gives us an idea of what we're looking at when he makes his way around. He rolls back to the next sequence of corners. We look forward to seeing what he can do next. As he does so, time is of the essence now in this qualifying session. Tomlinson-Dennis is on an out lap. In fact, it's just completely goes on to what will be one of his final flying laps, so there's got a bit of traffic in front of him. And that's the Mercedes for Ashley Cooperman that he's found in front. But he'll be hoping that Mercedes, with straight line speed on the course, will be able just to pull him along a little bit more and perhaps give him a bit of breathing room. But we'll have to see whether that's the way it'll work out or not. As these drivers make the way around, well, unfortunately, just Noel, 22nd place. I do believe he's out the car. He's had a bit of difficulty trying to find some clear track over the course of this qualifying session. It's always one of the upsides and downsides, of course, of open qualifying is the fact that if you get the lap absolutely right, you may find a tow off of somebody right at the most critical moment, and you may gain a couple of attempts added to what could be a very good lap. Conversely, pick your timings wrong and find traffic in front of you. As we do see Corey Price leaving as well to 14th place on the 36.324, previously just outside the top 20. And if you find a bit of traffic, you may not be able to get that lap you want to get together. And you've got it all to do in the race. But understandably, when you're at a circuit with overtaking opportunities and plentiful supply, you don't mind that perhaps as much. But here at Magny-Cours, you're definitely going to mind the fact that overtaking around here is going to prove very challenging. Right now, who is rising to the challenge getting a good lap together? Well, Bobby Moss, the challenger in the Interclass Championship, currently second place in the championship and trying to close the gap to Jared Love. This is not the way he wants to do it. Fourth place compared to Love, who's currently the visual pole sitter. The TSRC driver here, I think, struggling for a little bit of pace. He runs a bit wide out of turn number 3 and will gets the car down and planted going through Golf Curve and up towards Adelaide. Something tells me that Porsche 992 is being warmed up again and getting ready for one last attack of the circuit. Flash of headlights there from Charlie Walker, trying to say to Moss, look, I'm coming up to you and I'm on a quick lap. Milton Tomlinson-Dennis comes across line, and as he does so, let's see him find a bit more time. He's made his way through Grande Curve to start the lap then. He's got plenty of track in front of him, clear track that is, and going in towards Estel Bend. He goes on the brakes, very tight on approach down to brake, and he really is attacking the apex, trying to get a late apex together. Nails it there as he gets on the throttle as early as possible, fighting with the steering wheel every step of the way, and in fact decides to back off there. So Tomlinson-Dennis, he's going to build up for one more. So I think he now knows what his line is. He just waited to test the temperature of the tyres. We're going to jump on that on board for him for now. But right now, MTD absolutely getting himself keyed in. Meanwhile, Corey Price is improving. He heads towards the line. He was 14th. He's improved in sectors 1 and 2. But his sector 3 has been nothing to shout about, as that is a synchronous spin. And that's Drain Hoffman going around. And I believe a Lamborghini with him. But who's that who's gone with him? 9% certain. I think that might have been Corey Price. They're getting it very wrong, in fact. Would that be Corey Price? He just crossed lap. I don't think so. I think that was Niels Balcarga getting it wrong. Although saying that, then Niels absolutely picks up the speed very quickly. As we do say hello to Mark Kent94 in the YouTube chat. And good evening to you, Mark. And I hope you're doing well. And something tells me you might be here to cheer on the Full Tour Virtual Motorsport team. And of course, we do love seeing you on the grid with them on the Friday GT Championship. We'd love to see you perhaps join the grid for the GT3s on Thursdays at some point as well. If you're feeling up to it, of course, no peer pressure or expectation. But with a minute left to go in this qualifying session, there's plenty of expectation now between all of our drivers, with Jack Giles still trying to find a way to respond to Adam Lynch, and well, just no chance to it, as we do see Richard Simnor saying hashtag where's Leon. And well, I do know one thing, Richard, which is that we do have Leon Seedy in the YouTube chat, and well, therefore feel free to give a shout out there. But Richard out of the car, he's done enough, he's taking second on this grid by looks things, at least he thinks he has. But meanwhile, as all the drivers coming through, well, Benjamin Massey comes on through the last corner. Let's jump on board with him then, ladies and gentlemen, as he goes on to his last tour of the circuit under qualifying conditions. So in the BMW M4 Evo here, the Inox Motorsport driver makes way through turns 1 and 2, onto the brakes for turn 3. Nice and early there, trying to negotiate some understeer in the car by getting close to the early apex. But as he makes way out, you can see the understeer creeping in there as he runs a little bit wide coming out turn 3. Keeps it on the track, however, does not invalidate the lap, and now down towards Adelaide he goes. As he powers his way all the way down towards that braking zone, well, for Massey, he backs off immediately. I think he's realised, no, this is not going to get any quicker, so therefore we're not going to get a quicker lap from him. Meanwhile, Niels Balcarga's not going to squeeze in one more lap. He's going to miss out here. So Balcarga, does he improve? And well, his sector 1 was better than his previous best. Meanwhile, his sector 3 was also personal best, but his sector 2 was nowhere near good enough. So Balcarga will stay 7th then. And we've still got a few drives out there. Massey's parked up right now, not going anywhere quickly. I suspect he'll tow that car shortly. We've still got a couple more drives heading on through. As we do have to say hello to Mikhail Abasek. And, well, good evening to you, mate. Good, sir. And we're saying that he's looking forward to seeing how Ben gets on. Unfortunately, we'll not be seeing Mikhail Abasek make his way onto the grid for the remainder of the season, ladies and gentlemen, due to personal circumstances and commitments. Unfortunately, he hasn't got the time available now to race the remainder of the GT3 calendar, nor the GTs on Fridays. But we do hope to see him back in a future season. And we look forward to seeing his very impressive liveried Inox Motorsport machines out there, where it's in his hands, alternatively Benjamin Massey, alternatively their other teammates as well, Matthias Pettinger. They've always looked beautiful, the cars, if nothing else. As Jared Love, meanwhile, across that timeline, he improves to 8th place and a 35.984. Well, leaves it all to the last moment, but Jared Love, well, he's not just your pole sitter in the interclass, but he's brought himself quite a bit of a gap there to Luke Van Gertel of what is 2 places. Albeit understandably, perhaps he was hoping for a bit more. As Ben Woodgate cross line, what's going to be here for Woodgate as he crosses it? It is going to be a 36.131, a good lap there, a really good middle sector for Ben Woodgate and his McLaren, and what promotes him to the back end of the top 10. Well done to him right at the death of the session. But that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and after 45 minutes of qualifying, it's Milton Tomlinson-Dennis who has taken pole position of a 35.496, 300ths quicker than Richard Simnor, who will join on that front row, and then it'll be Charlie Walker, a season best qualifying points, just ahead of Elliot Court. Now, will Court have a similar situation to Suzuka, whereby he impresses in qualifying, and it go backwards from there? He'll be hoping not today. Brandon Dyer and Raz Harper will join him behind 5th and 6th, and there'll be Niels Balcarga and Jared Love to complete your full throw, and Love will be your interpole sitter. He will have the best part of 3 places between himself and Luke Van Gertel, demoted down there by the late improvement of Ben Woodgate to 11th place, but he will be comfortably ahead of Kyle Roy, who returns to a decent qualifying lap, taking 3rd and 14th overall for the interclass driver, and you have to go all the way back to 20th place to find what will be your club pole sitter, and that will be Adam Lynch then. The 167 header Jack Giles in the end, and well, he does have 3 places between himself and his main championship rival, but the most important thing is he's taken that pole position. But that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and Philip Harris just edging out Jordan Butler for 25th overall, and that will be 3rd in club class. The two of them separated by only 2 tenths in the end. But now, of course, we do have our 5-minute warm-up period. And it's an opportunity for our drivers just to seemingly get things together and make sure that they're all happy with the way the car is set up and ready to go. Now, understandably at this point, what will our drivers be thinking about? Well, firstly, they need to make sure they put all the fuel back in the car. They don't want to be going out there on a qualifying setup, or do they perhaps want to go out there with a slightly lighter car? Now, the thought process, of course, is we are running 75% fuel tanks in these GT3s. They cannot complete the race as a no-stop, and the conditions here will not enable them to, even if it was theoretically possible if it rained hard enough, but there's no rain to be expected. So therefore, you're going to need to be smart in strategy. You can overtake. We have mentioned the fact there are overtaking zones, but there are very specific corners you typically overtake at. Although never say never, drivers will find a way to overtake at the most unconventional spots, and we have seen that plenty of times in the past here in the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship, whether it be at circuits such as Magny-Cours or alternatively other circuits around the globe. But you've got to think to yourself, if I can't make the unconventional happen, well, then I've got to be a bit unconventional strategy. And what you may decide to do is actually give yourself quite a light car at the start of the race, perhaps given the fuel tank, not load it fully, and by having a lighter car and therefore a quotably quicker car, you may be able to make up some ground early on and store them away. As we see Dwayne Hoffman parking up, that car being towed back to the pit lane, and there's Benjamin Massey's Inox Motorsport BMW in its full colour and splendour making its way onwards. And I've got to admit, that's a new livery on the car there, and that is looking absolutely brilliant. McCall, if you're listening, you have absolutely excelled yourself on that one. Now, there is a car in real life that livery is making me massively think of. And no, it's not a Jordan Formula 1 car before anybody says that, because of the yellow and black back in their Honda era, their final era of Formula 1. But for some reason, there is a GT3 team that does race with very similar colours. I can't remember what series they race in, to be fair, because there's so many these days. But either way, that livery, absolutely lovely on the car. And, well, the little bumblebee machine, as you could say, has got a bit of a stinger to it today. Well, Benjamin Massey will be hoping he can definitely put out a bit of a sting there after what's been a little bit of a misplaced qualifying session. The 353 driver definitely building up the pace as the season has gone on. But as we do see Mark Kent saying that he's no longer racing GT3s, he's fell out of love for them, and he's now a GTE guy. Well, to be fair, that's an absolutely fine addiction to take, racing GTEs. And, well, we do have quite a few drivers in our GT3 series who also race in the GTEs, and going to adapt, of course, that difference between the two cars, which is GTEs, a lot more aero on the car, also 50 brake horsepower more engine power typically, and no ABS. Whereas the GT3, the car or the class that's really replaced GTE in the likes of the IMSA Sports Car Championship, plus also the World Endurance Championship, at the back end of the 2010s IMSA and the start of the early 2020, so in 2023 in the case of World Endurance Championship, the GT3 with anti-lock braking system or ABS, plus also a little bit less engine power and a bit less aero on the car, but aero that makes the car easier to control and also not as aggressive when it's in the tow of another car. Now, of course, you pick your poison, you take your preference, but either way the cars are similar and they are based on road cars, and they have to be a road car that is produced according to a certain number unless a waiver is given by the organising body. But all the GT3s you will see out here today, not saying you can buy them as road cars, to be fair, with the measly money that we typically make, particularly if you want to just go out there and put your credit card down from a McLaren 720S Evo, you are going to be looking at hundreds of thousands of pounds to do so, of which Brandon Dyer's car is based on. Alternatively, you've got the Porsche 992 out there, such as that from Adam Lynch, where you are looking at the best part of 150 grand or so in the United Kingdom, at least, to be able to buy one of these on the road as a road car, not a race car, of course. Whereas others may be a little bit affordable, such as the BMW M4 offering, the Evo offering out there, normally retailing for the best part of around, if my memory serves me correctly, around 80 grand from brand new, or £80,000 that I shouldn't use English slang on a formal broadcast. But as our drivers head on through, and everyone absolutely itching to go, no doubt about it. And, well, Mark Kent there getting it absolutely spot on. That is the livery that I'm thinking of with regards to the BMW M4 Evo Benjamin Massey, the TF Sport Corvette livery in real life. Thank you, Mark. I knew somebody was going to be able to say which livery it's reminded me of, and, well, great minds think alike, as they say, as he makes way on down. And Mikhail Abaset there throwing in the B emoji as well, and saying that might be an inspiration there. Well, he's definitely inspired many, I think, livery designers out there. And, well, speaking of absolutely lovely liveries, a similar livery in terms of the colour shades, albeit not quite the shine and chrome on it, the Van Gerten MJK Sim Racing Machine. And the story of the liveries of the team in terms of matching them up is the fact that I do believe Denny Ploger does the work on these liveries, does a fantastic job of them, and wanting the same base black but of a different colour per driver, so that way each driver is identifiable, where Luke Van Gertel racing with the yellow, of course, Denny Ploger typically racing with the green, and Arno Parks racing with the orangey red. And I do believe one day if they put a full team member out there, they will take a lighter blue to the car. But meanwhile, what we need to take now is definitely take stock of the fact our 5-minute warm-up session is complete, and just like that, It's time to head to the grid, ladies and gentlemen, for round number 8 of the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship Season 12, brought to you today from the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours here on iRacing. But who is going to be the master of Magny-Cours? Let's find out over a 60-minute race. And as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our one and only race today in our Superstar split. It is Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis who takes pole position for Samantha Racing and will be joined on the front row of the grid by Richard Simnor. The DCW Racing Blue driver couldn't quite find a way to take pole, but to be fair, being 27,000 behind, that's not bad going in the battle between himself and the Lamborghini Master. Meanwhile, Charlie Walker, season best qualifying point, starts in third there for Relentless Racing in his 308, and well, he is the best part of 2.5 tenths behind the front row, but he was able to find 600ths ahead of Elliot Court, who starts on the second row with him. The DDK with RaceStatBot.com drive will then be followed up by Brandon Dyer for Altitude Frame Esports, and we do see Raz Harper in 6th place there for DDK with RaceStatBot.com, but can Harper make some magic happen again today and make it back-to-back wins, perhaps, or at least back-to-back podiums? Niels Bacarga starts in 7th place for NJP Performance, and whether it's dry or whether it's wet, always watch out for the German driver. He normally comes along as the race goes along. Jared Love, he'll break up the Pro Pack there, starting in 8th place as your Interpol sitter and the Inter Championship leader. This is exactly what he needs to DDK with RaceStatBot.com if he wants to start sealing the deal and potentially giving himself the chance to wrap up the championship with a round to spare in a week's time at Road Atlanta. Ashley Cooten starts in 9th for Relentless Racing ahead of Ben Woodgate, the Inter Racing Team driver. A further 10th behind, however still in the fight for a top 10 finish today, no doubt about it. And in 11th place it'll be Luke van Gertel as the formation lap gets underway. And the MJK SimRacing driver, second in the Interclass. He'll be happy with that performance, but no, there's work to be done to chase down Jared Love. And we do see Leighton Austin for Relentless Racing starting at 12th there, just ahead of Joris Petersveen. The gap between the two of them, only 200. However, perhaps one of the bigger shocks, Kyle Roy. This is a positive one, however. The Axis Sport with SimWorks driver, not having too much time to practice, but to be fair, with minimal practice, he's put himself third in the Interclass and 14th overall. Makes you wonder what practice would have done for him, but still, that's the question, a big what-if one at that. Corey Price starts in 15th place for Darkwing Racing ahead of Benjamin Massey for Inox Motorsport, who in the end did come alive in qualifying towards the end, and we have seen his pace delta to the top 10 shrink quite considerably. However, what's been the difference today is the fact this Magny-Cours circuit has seen some very tight clustering of lap times. Otherwise, I suspect he could have potentially almost been inside that top 15, if not inside the top 10 itself. Bobby Moss, well, the other end of the spectrum in the Interclass, starting 4th in class today and 17th overall for TSRC. That's not where he wants to be, because he wants to be the closest possible driver to Jared Love if he can be. Bradley Setters will join him on that 9th row of the grid for a Relentless Race in the 336, and it will be only the best part there of 300s back to Adam Smith, who starts 19th for Euro Titans Endurance. None of the team need a big score today if they want to take the fight to that 2nd place, if not close the gap to the leaders. Adam Lynch, he will line up alongside the privateer, who starts on pole position for the club class, and well, can he make it another win this season? Can he make it his 4th win? We'll have to wait and see. Behind him, Martin Kenyon for Clark St James with DXT, and the Dexterous Motorsports driver will be ahead of Justin Earl, who struggled in qualifying, but watch out for the American driver. He's been looking very quick as this season has gone on. Jack Giles will start in 2nd of the club drives for Euro Titans Endurance. Not quite on the pace of Adam Lynch, but to be fair, qualifying is a lap, the race is plenty more of them. Alfred Kirsten starts in 24th. The Dane, daring as always, the Simstrap by Glass Step Racing, well, 24th there. He knows he's got some work to do, but he'll have the buffer of 2 club drives behind him. Philip Harris, one of them for Euro Titans Endurance, and the other being Jordan Butler for Virtual Motorsport FTVM. So he'll be starting 4th place, one of his better qualifying points of the season. He was only half a 10th ahead of Sam Hockley, who falls down the ranks to 8th place in the Interclass with his qualifying points ahead of Thomas Weston. Then we do have Christopher Petty starting 29th ahead of Eddie Fearbold to complete your top 30. Well done to Petty, that's a good qualifying point, and well, a bit of surprise there for Eddie Fearbold, who normally has been just that little bit quicker. Then we do see outside the top 30 in 31st, Rob Gregg for Moonshiners Racing Club. And it feels as though the dry conditions there perhaps relegate him back the way. However, watch out for him. He'll try and carve his way through. Ashley Shucksmith join him on that 16th row of the grid. And then behind Rob Gregg will be his teammate of James Fraser, 33rd there. And then we will see completing that 17th row Martin Brandon for Axis Sport with SimWorks. He'll be in the Audi R8 LMS Evo 2 machine. Although I believe he's opting to start from the pit lane due to a technical issue with the car that they've just fixed. And Dwayne Hoffman for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport will complete the starting order of 35 cars on the back of the grid. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're not too far away from going green flag racing for the 8th time this season today. And as all the field comes on down, we look down to the closer cameras. We'll still shortly be over to Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis to get us underway for 60 minutes of racing action here in the French countryside. But will he run away to the win? Or will Richard Simnor or Charlie Walker keep him honest? That and plenty more. We're about to find out here in another round of racing in the Thursday GT3 Championship. And it's lights and away we go. 60 minutes of racing gets on away just like that. They've rolled the way down. But look at Richard Simnor. He's had a brilliant start. 2-1. They go into Grand Curve immediately. And as they do, well, they're going to have to give each other all the space. A few drives run a little bit wide, but all using the runoff area with cold tyres. As they come into view, they're all going to go deep. We can see that Charlie Walker running very wide. Milton Tomlinson-Dennis, meanwhile, makes himself so wide. But here comes Richard Simnor as Tomlinson-Dennis runs out onto the gravel. And Simnor takes the lead. Elliott Court squeeze on through as they charge the way down towards turn number 5. And I believe we had everybody safely through the opening chicane. Well done to everyone for doing so. That can prove challenging. Here comes Elliott Court. He's all fired up. It's Elliott Court. Looking at the inside. Tomlinson-Dennis goes all in on the brakes. And Ian gets the car stopped just in the nick of time. And as they all make the way through the hairpin now, everyone piling in. There's Jack Charles and Adam Lynch together. And, well, Adam Lynch in under pressure. And Justin Noel threads the needle between the two of them. That's Tomlinson-Dennis. He's been biffed off the road. So Tomlinson-Dennis onto the grass. But he rejoins. He's in a free wider of Corey Price and Benjamin Massey. And in the end, well, he's not going to back out there. Surely, no, he's not. Price gets ahead. And Tomlinson-Dennis forces what will be US Peters and Benjamin Massey to fight each other in the battle of the BMWs. Amongst the very colourful machine there of US Peters on the inside. Goodness me, what a start to this race there's been. There's been plenty of excitement and drama. And we're going to get some replays when we can, ladies and gentlemen. Ashley Coupland, meanwhile, battling with Niels Balkaga. So now on the inside here too, while they come in towards the end of the chicane. Or Coupland on the inside to outside. That's not where you want to be unless your rival's going to give you the space to cooperate. And he does, Balkaga, to be fair, defending firmly on the inside there at the Chateau de hairpin. And Coupland's going to use the power there of that Mercedes to outrun the Lamborghini's Audi V10 engine. But as they come down towards the complex de l'IC now, who's going to back out first here under braking? So remember, it's the hairpin followed by the chicane. And well, you can see Coupland, they're just holding on ahead. I think Balkaga wants to fight it, but realises it's not going to work as Luke Van Goertel, well, he's got ahead of Jared Love at the start of this lap. And well, as they go for, oh no, that's Elliott Court. Court's gone for a spin at the chicane, and the man who's charges throughout the order, he has to get himself turned around as quickly as he can. But as he does so, well, right now he's going to rejoin car into the pit lane. It's double disaster for DDK Racing because that is Raz Harper into the pit lane with a drive-through penalty, I believe, and that might be for a jump start. But meanwhile, as Elliott Court gets himself up to speed, will run his way on through. That's caused our timing towers to glitch, ladies and gentlemen, but it'll fix itself in due course. And well, meanwhile, this is not a glitch when you see Richard Simnor. He's your leader. Brandon Dyer second, but Charlie Walker behind is battling with Ashley Coupland. And the relentless racing team, I don't know what their rules are about racing each other, but I think the rules are right now go full out, flat out against each other. In fact, they fight each other hard and they do other drivers sometimes. That's not to be rude about them. That's what we've seen this season. But it looks as though that Ashley Coupland's picked up a slowdown for track limits to the hairpin, and suddenly Niels Balkaga gets ahead. But, oh, goodness me, we've had a bit of an incident here. That is going to be, I believe, US Peters having to park the car up. And I think he's been in contact with the McLaren of Sam Hockley. I'm also hearing in my ear that there's been some involvement of Bradley Setters in there as well. Whilst trying to understand what's happened between them in due course. We will get some replays of the big incidents, ladies and gentlemen. But right now, whilst there's all this action going on, we're going to stay live at Circuit side for at least a few more minutes as Sam Hockley tries to recover, getting back ahead at Ashley Shucksmith there, retaking 25th on the 6th place driver. But Train Hoffman goes spinning out, and all the Lamborghini and him definitely are not talking to each other right now. And what he said to Lamborghini at the end of qualifying, the car has not agreed with him, the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver. Well, right now, it's going to be more difficult than it is going to be Sweet Delilah. But as he makes his way onwards, Martin Kenyon catch it up, and well, Kenyon's had a difficult start to his race as well, and therefore things have gone a bit backwards before they've gone forwards. But meanwhile, Richard Simnor comes to the end of lap number 3, and as he does so, well, right now, please ignore the time tower for that. It will update itself in due course. It's where Elliott Court's had a spin and gone so wide coming out of turn 17. His transponder has said he's gone a lap ahead of everybody when he's not quite done so. But meanwhile, that's getting very crowded there in towards Grand Curve, and that's going to be now what will be Jared Love under pressure from Kyle Roy. Roy's going on the attack here as we ride on board with the Access in Sport with SimWorks driver as our time tower updates itself. And as he comes out the corner right now, well, Roy is definitely playing it quite tactically here, and something tells me his game plan might be settling behind Love and Van Goertel. If you can stay with them early, you're able to gain on them over the course of the race distance. And we know this Aston Martin isn't as quick over a single lap, but it's a very comfortable car to drive, and it's very good on strategy. That's going to be Ben Woodgate going around the outside there, and when the end, Roy having to tuck it behind Love, got grouped up behind him, the concertina effect there, when he actually touched the rear of Love's car by looks of things, and here comes Bobby Moss. So Moss now wants an opportunity here, and Moss trying to make up for poor qualifying points, at least the way he'll feel about it, and once they make the way through, Carl Roy going very defensive there and says to Bobby Moss, no, it's my turn to shine, not yours. And Moss has got Leighton Austin looking around one side, and well, Leighton Austin in the end almost trying to put his nose on the inside when the door was firmly shut in his face, and I think that's one of those situations where Leighton Austin, you can imagine, if he was standing next to you trying to close the door, he's literally put his pinky toe into the door to keep it open, and well, in the end, I think even he realised that was going to cause a lot of damage to the car if he tried to force that door open versus Bobby Ross, and I think both of them would have gone to the stewards room, and understanding Bobby would have been too happy about it. But Leighton Austin now looks around the outside, and the relentless driver absolutely living up to his team name here, being relentless for this move for 10th place. Here they come two wide down the hill in towards I see, and as they do, is he going to go around the outside here? The answer is going to be yes, he is. Moss decides not to fight it anymore. Austin goes very deep. He's going to cause the fight to continue, and Moss defends on the inside for the chicane. Here comes Tomlinson-Dennis, and Tomlinson-Dennis goes around the outside. Well, that's brave, that's bold, it's brilliant. And the man who started on pole position, he's on his way up, but 3 wide behind, and in the middle of the road, that's going to be Alfred Kirstein minus the front bumper. Oh, goodness me, that's a reverse Moses manoeuvre there if I've seen it, and that's Leighton Austin who goes around the outside. Benjamin Massey close behind. Well, we do come back, ladies and gentlemen. I do believe we just had a slight connectivity error there. We're not quite sure what's happened. This does happen every so often. Unfortunately, it's something entirely outside our control. And what have you missed there? Only the start of a 2-wide battle between Jack Charles and Alfred Kirstein. It started coming out of what's turn number 3, and it's continuing now as they make their way down into the braking zone here for what is 180-degree corner. And Jack Charles still on of Alfred Kirstein, at least now, as they roll the way out of the bends. But as they do so, we can see Kirstein here staying close, but not quite able to find a way in. Luke Van Gertel, meanwhile, he's trying to find a way versus Niels Balkaga here. He's not saying anything, but I want to go forward even faster. He's trying to make the move here. He's going to take full place, and the MJK SimRacing Tri is absolutely flying. Now, if I remember correctly, the last time we came to Magny-Cours a few seasons ago, unless I'm getting my series mixed up, but to be fair, I'm normally good with the memory, Luke Van Gertel absolutely flew at this circuit, and right now he's flying once again. So therefore, absolutely on a charge, on a mission, and looking very rapid indeed. And well, right now up in a full place. How much further can he go? Well, as we look a bit further back, Chris Petty been passed by Sam Hockley, and well, Hockley just tucks up the inside there, takes that place off him and says, thank you very much, I'll take that, and decides that with Chris Petty now behind him, he can go chasing after Elliot Court, and I think Petty will be looking behind him and thinking, okay, I've now got the rest of the club class following me, and I'm trying to hold on to the podium. Well, that's not going to be easy for him, but to be fair, if anybody can do it, he can. Philip Harris, meanwhile, the Eurotitans endurance driver, he rolls his way down the hill through turns 1 and 2, and as he does so, well, you can see there in front, James Fraser starting to move away a little bit. You've got the very colourful machine of Joris Peters Veem that's staying with him, and I think Peters Veem will be looking for a move sooner rather than later. I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to look up the inside in towards the braking zone for Adelaide Bend. Harris comes across a little bit, trying to take the toe there, Fraser, but realising there's going to be change as Rob Gregg dives up the inside of Krista Petty, and that's going to be Eddie Fearbold squeezing it up through as well. So Fearbold says, thank you very much, I'll take that off you, and will they make the one out? Meanwhile, James Fraser, 2 wide there versus Philip Harris, and well, Harris still battling with Joris Peters Veem. So it does look as though Peters Veem's going to get the upper hand. Fraser tried to go around the outside, it didn't quite work out, he's had to back off there. As Thomas Weston, a bit further back there, in the Cyberpunk delivery machine, well, right now the 277 trying to carry on. Somebody's got it a bit wrong in front, not quite sure who, but what I can tell you is that Philip Harris and Joris Peters Veem are back each other off, and James Fraser has now lost that place to Thomas Weston. And I think there might have been some gravel being kicked up, and Harris has picked up a slowdown penalty somewhere. But meanwhile, you see Charlie Walker under pressure from Luke Van Gertel for 3rd place overall. And Gertel right now absolutely flying as they make their way down towards turn number 1. And Niels Balkaga right behind there, as we can see Corey Price a bit further back. But as the long queue of cars makes its way on through, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to take a look back in time at the start of the race, and particularly take a look back at some of the big moments in the beginning of this one, because we've definitely had a very exciting race to begin with. And this is what it looked like from the very start. Now this was as we went green flag racing. Of course, the big excitement point straight away was the big battle between Richard Simnor, Milton Tomlinson-Dennis and Charlie Walker. It was Tomlinson-Dennis took us green, but it was what was a 4 wide almost, so we did see an absolute monster start from Elliot Court, who tried to go around the outside of everybody, but it didn't quite work out. So all the drivers made the way on through, everybody safely on through the opening few corners. A couple going a bit too wide, however, nobody finding themselves too wide out into the circuit. So what exactly happened after they all settled down? Well, it was in the exit turn 3, and Milton Tomlinson-Dennis went a little bit too wide, and suddenly the doorway opened up, and Elliot Court with a monster run, and Raz Harper with him. So the DDK team absolutely flew, but Harper had already picked up the drive-through penalty for the jump start. Well, Elliot Court went for the move, it didn't work out, so Tomlinson-Dennis went way too late on the brakes, but went wide to make sure he compensated for it. So in the end, it was Richard Simnor able to open up a bit of a gap. Oh, and that explains why we had Raz Harper being turned around. He'd already jumped the start, and then he was propelled away. We didn't quite see that, so Raz Harper being turned, and we'll have to understand what exactly happened. Here's a replay from this perspective. This was Harper right in the middle of it all, and as he made his way through the quartet, safely out, trying to get the power down. At this point, he's in a squeeze. I suspect he's going to be clipped. I wonder if that's Tomlinson-Dennis' car that he's been clipped with, and unfortunately, with the big squeeze and the shuttle of all the cars, I suspect they had nowhere to go, the pair of them, because as we did have that. Well, ladies and gents, we do apologise. Our broadcast just briefly dropping once again. We're definitely going to have to investigate that going forward, because this does seem to be something that's happening regularly now. Unfortunately, it's outside of control at the moment. But we do just come back to the replay we were bringing you there before we did get that disconnection, and it was Raz Harper's unfortunate demise. He did go battling 4 wide at the hairpin, and as they got the power down, found himself coming onto the path of Milton. Tomlinson-Dennis was trying to rejoin, and the two of them definitely there did not negotiate that one successfully. But we had some other difficulties as well. Martin Kenyon on lap number 2 had a bit of a moment. This was coming through the Lacey chicane, and Clarkson James DXT trying in, having the rear let go as it did for Elliott Court, but unfortunately that's how Alfred Kirstein lost his front bumper. He went into contact and everyone else very quickly ducked out the way there. But what happened to Court? This was the dashboard camera from Court's perspective. So he was chasing after the leader, made his way through the chicane, hit the first curve a bit too high, and the second one in the end completely sent him out wide, and the car rolled off the road. But we did have this big incident for what was Bradley Setters, as I do believe we have lost sound by looks of things, ladies and gentlemen. This was the incident for Bradley Setters. Give us a brief moment. And as he made about the corner, unfortunately, Joris Peters beam had already gone round and well being collected there. Well, hopefully the sound should come back in due course. And do let us know, ladies and gentlemen, when the sound does come back. But in the meantime, we're going to come back to your live racing. But as we do come back to the front of the field, and all drives running the way onwards at the moment, and Richard Simnor still in control, and as he makes his way on through, Brandon Dyer a bit further behind. So we do see Mark Kent there saying sound is fine for him, so it looks like we have got our sound back. I do apologise there for what's going on, and again, we're not quite sure, ladies and gentlemen, what's happened there, but this does seem a bit too coincidental, so we are going to investigate that in the coming weeks. But we know Charlie Walker pushing onwards as much as possible. Further back, Adam Smith, he's still trying to make some progress. We are going to get some replay of what happened a bit earlier on shortly. And with regards to some drivers there, of course, we didn't want to bring you those replays without being able to talk about it. But in the meantime, Adam Smith still on a bit of a mission here, coming in at 16th place. Adam Lynch, the second place runner in the club class there with him. And many will be wondering how exactly did we see Jack Giles make that move on Adam Lynch for the lead of the class? And the answer to that question, I think we are going to be getting a replay of it very shortly to explain. A brief moment. I think, get the footage come back, and here it is with regards to the two of them battling. So this was Jack Giles looking for the move. It was on lap number 2 versus Adam Lynch. He was coming down towards the chicane, so it was going to be Lynch on the inside, Giles on the outside, as he made his way under brake and went a bit deep, so that didn't quite work out initially, but then, oh, and that explains it. So Adam Lynch had to take evasive action there for the wayward car of Joris Peters' beam, and Jack Giles was able to capitalise on that, so that's how it came to him. And back we come to your live racing action, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's a quick synopsis of all the big moments from the very start of this race. I'm sure we're going to see plenty more big moments as this race does go on. Ben Woodgate right now for Inter Racing Team. He's been chased by Milton Tomlinson-Dennis, who after he slipped off the road earlier on and his contact with Raz Harper, he's still trying to get back into this one as best he possibly can. We have had a tow to the bits of Leighton Austin, but more on that in a bit, as Tomlinson-Dennis up the inside of Woodgate, and that will be as straightforward as it comes, and he'll make that move happen, as we do see Deddy Ploger there saying, tell the hamster to run faster for internet connection, and I'll do my best to, Deddy. Indeed, it's a bit odd that it's happening on Thursday evening specifically, but I do wonder where it's an internet service provider issue, and again, something entirely outside my control. If so, well, we won't move on it we won't dwell on it. So that's the word I'm looking for there for too much longer. As Woodgate picks up a slow down penalty there for track limit. We he's definitely got to push on a little bit. As a bit further back, Benjamin Massey, we're currently running in at 12th place there. The Onyx Motorsport BMW making great progress, started 16th into 12th, and he'll be hoping there's a little bit more to be made here as he weaves his way between the corners. As he does so, Alfred Kirstein a bit further back, and Elliot Court there as well. And we've got a few more slowdowns coming up for drivers as well, including Sam Hockley, and also, I believe, Jordan Butler. Speaking of which, here is the full tilt virtual motorsport driver who's fallen back behind Joris Petersveen, and well, he has got Krista Petty and Philip Harris for close company as these drivers weave and wind the way through the inland chicane. So a bit of pressure coming his way, and we're hoping that pressure's not going to sit with him for too long, and he will just be able to feel a bit safer. But in terms of some other big moments that have befallen drivers, well, we did have this big off for Eddie Theobald on lap number 3. And this was Theobald at the time, coming down towards 180-degree corner. As he did so, went a little bit deep into the corner, but there was a wayward car, and then he had to take evasive action, and that was the Lamborghini going around there, Thomas Weston. The Cyberpunk car coming to a halt, and unfortunately for Eddie Theobald, with the loss of traction on the rear end, he went round, but managed to style it out on the grass and get it back on the road quite comfortably. We also had this from Martin Brandon. This was your Audi driver making his way through the Nürburgring chicane. And as the Exercise Sport with Simworks 136 went to the brain zone for 180-degree bend, I suspect he's going to go a bit deep, touch the white line, touch a little bit of rubber on the outside, and that sends the rear of the car on round. And we also did have a bit of a big off track for Ashley Shucksmith. And this was Shucksmith right in the thick of the fighting, trying to look for a move on Sam Hockley. And in the end, with Elliot Court on his inside, a bit of elbows between the two of them, and it helps then Shucksmith around there. Tiny touch, but with big consequences. We don't normally see that, but you've definitely seen that today. And well, meanwhile, we also did have this big moment for what was none other than Leighton Austin. And this was Austin on lap 6. This is what led to his toe to the pit lane. And the relentless racing drive hitting the curb too high there, coming through turn what was number 13. And in the end, as he exited the inland chicane, he exited it more round than straight, and unfortunately into the barrier. And that damaged the rear of the car, bringing his race to an abrupt halt, unfortunately, and then had to toe to the pit lane. So those are the big moments, ladies and gentlemen. We come back to your racing, and with things settling down, we're still definitely more racing to come. We do see Charlie Walker make his way on through turn number 3. But right now, Van Gertel not too far behind. And, well, it does seem as though Van Gertel, after his progress, has now hit a bit of a limit there in the lead of the Interclass at 4th overall. A little bit further back. But meanwhile, we've got change of foot, as that is Jack Giles giving Adam Smith up a position. Sierra Titus's endurance driver swapping places with his teammate. That's overall position. But understandably, Giles backing off there. And, well, the club leader, he's now going to have Adam Lynch getting a little bit closer. So that's going to be a bit of a scare for him now. Because, yes, he's helped out his teammate in the Interclass by literally giving him the clear track in front to say to him, right, go on the attack. Try and take a top 5 in the class. But Adam Lynch is not too far behind. And as the drivers make the way on through, well, right now we do see what is that battle starting to build. Remember, of course, Giles got the lead of the club class at this very corner at Adelaide when Joris Petersveen had that spin, and well, Adam Lynch had to take evasive action. Giles came up to the incident a little bit later on, and he did not have to worry about it anywhere near as much. He had a much bigger view of the incident, and therefore was able to go full speed out of the bend. As the drivers come through at turn number 9, well, we have a bit of difficulty for Justin Noel. He's gone very deep at the hairpin, and that's not going to help out at all. His day's going from good to bad to worse, it would seem. The American privateer, side by side with Dwayne Hoffman, will take that place back very quickly. Hoffman, of course, had that spin earlier on, coming out to 180-degree bend. Lamborghini didn't want to negotiate with him, and Justin Noel right now having a spin in that Ferrari, but hopefully that'll be the last spin that we see from him. But Richard Simnor right now, as he sees Raz Harper in front of him. But Harper, of course, about to go a lap down theoretically, as the blue flags will be waved at him. But Harper will see if he can pull away rather than be put a lap down by Richard Simnor, because otherwise that will complicate his race. Well, it's definitely looking to be Simnor's racing control at the moment, at least. Although Brandon Dyer doing everything he can to try and close that gap, and Charlie Walker and Niels Balkage are currently the fastest drivers out on the circuit. Balkage in particular, a 36.06 that last lap. 4 tenths quicker than Simnor, but he's got a 6.5 second gap he needs to close down. So therefore, a bit of work for him to do as Tomlinson-Dennis makes his way through the turn 5 braking zone, and also he's got the pace to potentially lead this race, but he's got a lot of places to make up in order to try and get back to the very front of the field. We'll see what he can do and what his game plan will be. But as he drives all the way onwards, we're definitely right now proving to be one of those races whereby it sets down quite a bit, and all the fighting. And definitely now taking a bit of a back step in the favour of perhaps some more strategic thinking from drivers. We'll have to see whether the strategic thinking will definitely take the priority here, or whether this is a calm before the proverbial storm. And we could see a storm or a deluge of more overtaking opportunities. in the classes. What we can see is that our leaders are either pulling away, alternatively they're not too far away from each other. And Jared Love right now, your second place into driver, well, he is a sizable 8 seconds behind Luke Gertel. As we show you the class standings down the left-hand side of your screen. And right now, for Jared Love, if things finish as they currently stand in this race, he won't mind this too much because he's still gaining ground in the championship. He will extend his lead at the top over Bobby Moss, and therefore Moss knows that he will be the one who's really feeling the pain. You see him in the rear of the picture, but here comes Tomlinson-Dennis up the inside of Love for a Gandercourt bend, and Love's not going to back out of this, so he's going to make it a bit harder for Tomlinson-Dennis, and Ben Woodgate behind will watch on. We look back from the rear here of the Ferrari, the 210, as the Scotsman makes his way onto a long straight. And this is where the Ferrari can be very hit or miss. It can either be very quick on the straights, particularly if it's got a distant toe, or it's been set up correctly. And Love here looking to be the quicker of the two. So I suspect what DDK-RaceDuck.com have done, they've gone for a compromise setup here, whereby that Ferrari is quick enough on the straights to look very safe. And I think their thought process was that Love had the pace to take, if not pole position, at least out-qualify Bobby Moss, and therefore they could essentially have him hold Bobby Moss at bay should he be close enough, where the Porsche should be quicker through the corners, but not as quick on the straights. Instead, what it's now doing is actually frustrating Tomlinson-Dennis, whose Lamborghini, as we typically have seen, has got all the pace in the corners and some on the straights, particularly the shorter straights, but longer straights, such as the run from turn 3 down towards turn 5. That's where it's not got the pace whatsoever, it would seem. Going up towards what will be the Imola chicane, and, well, Ben Woodgate's still there. Well, we do a little bit further back to Robert and Greg, meanwhile, and Greg on the back of Joris Peters Veeam at the moment. And Will Moonshine's Racing Club driver still staying in the hunt for that third place in the club class, albeit his target at the moment is Eddie Fearbold, and Peters Veeam being a pro that's just interdicting the two. But as we can see, Fearbold taking a bit of a brief run wide there, well, not too much of a run wide, so calls will be a slowdown penalty. I think he has to be careful of making those mistakes. He wants to keep making those as he tries to continue to draw the way on around. We do see all of the battle action continue to build up. We do see those class gaps between those drivers. We do come back to your overall standings, of course. And as we do, well, there's going to be a bit more fighting to go on between them all before this race is said and done. And Jared Love right now, well, he's definitely trying to keep his head down on this one and make sure Tomlinson-Dennis can't get too close. I think at the moment, Tomlinson-Dennis with such a run coming out to turn number 3. Well, Samantha Tam Racing Dry here is going to get on past. In fact, I wonder if Love's lifted off a little bit there, because that definitely looked as though he was lifting off before the braking zone. I think Jared Love's decided, you know what, is it really worth me fighting? I might as well tuck him behind the pro Lamborghini driver and save some fuel instead of trying to push my luck. And I think a smart move there from Jared Love, and well, Ben Woodgate now will hope that the same favour is repaid to him. Jack Giles, meanwhile, he's still chasing after Adam Smith. And will run his way through the hairpin at the moment, with Adam Lynch 1.3 seconds behind. The club leader still looking just about safe in his position. However, understandably, you know, he can't take his foot off the gas for one moment. As we do say, we'll see a message there from Mikhail Avasek saying missing the Audi, and indeed the Audi R8, once really the most popular car, you could say, in GT3 class racing for what was its orchestral V10, but also the fact, well, the cheapest cars to run in GT3 racing in the real world. Audi having a huge customer racing program as well as their own manufacturer program, but since their entry into Formula 1, they have really sacrificed it all in the stakes of going Formula 1 racing. They have kept the customer team program alive, but sadly the R8 V10 Evo 2 is gradually heading towards retirement. It's one of the staples of the GT3 category, much like the Lexus RCF GT3, to name another one, but we're expecting both of those cars potentially to retire, if not at the end of this year, then definitely within the next couple of years. We also do say hello there to Welsh Boy 2012, who says good evening to Mark Kent there, so good to see some friends being made in the YouTube chat. And right now, who will be making friends and who will be making rivalries out on the circuit? Well, I suspect we're not too far away from finding out that. As the drivers coming through the corners, right now things definitely looking more and more strategic here, but we do expect that with regards to what is in Magny-Cours circuit, and now everyone will really be thinking about time management and also fuel management. And speaking of Audis, how is our Audi of Martin Brandon doing out there? Well, not good news, ladies and gentlemen. He does have a black flag, and I suspect that is for instant points. He has picked up quite a few already in this race, and that's going to be a drive-through penalty that he's going to serve when 3 laps have been acquired. Oh, hold up a second. Who's that running wide? That is Philip Harris. And Harris has had a bit of a run wide. They're coming out to turn number 3. That's not gone right at all there for Philip Harris. And the 1-2-1 driver makes his way onwards. Right now, the Eurotitans endurance driver definitely having a bit of a difficult day in the office, it would seem. And well, for Harris, it's now fallen back to 7th place in the club class. Christopher Petty is now to sneak ahead. what exactly happened to Philip Harris? Well, here's an answer, ladies and gentlemen. So this was Harris making his way through the opening sequence of corners, and out to turn number 3 he went, trying to get the power down, was already wide of the apex, and that's him understeer even wider there, so that's how Benjamin Massey snuck on through. So a bit of dirty air, completely scooped the front end of the car off, but we've just had some drama for Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis. So this was the Southampton Racing driver, at the time chasing after Lamborghini of Corey Price, hit the curve too high, and much like Elliott caught at the start of the race, it went round. Oh, goodness me! And with Jared Love down to snap the brakes on and then point the car straight. I think he was getting ready to swerve. Well, thankfully, the only driver being caught up, and that was Tomlinson-Dennis himself. But Jared Love almost losing out there. That could have been curtains for his race. And well, understandably, MTD right now dropping down as Ben Woodgate, meanwhile, moving up a position, Jared Love as well, and Woodgate clearing the into second place drive as a result of what's that huge near miss. That could have been far, far worse, but what it has done is it has seen Bobby Moss and Carl Roy creep just that little bit closer. Bobby Moss right now definitely putting the hammer down here, and how exactly did he make the move on Carl Roy earlier on? This was back on lap number 9, so quite some time ago. This is how he made his way into third place in the interclass. This was coming down into the hairpin of Adelaide, and Kyle Roy went very deep there into the corner, went a bit wide on exit, understanding all the speed he carried. There was a drag race up towards the Nürburgring chicane, and in the end, Bobby Moss was just able to accelerate the Aston Martin in time before the braking zone. So a lovely bit of opportunism there from Bobby Moss, and that's how he's taken third place in the interclass. Back we do come to your live racing, still plenty more to come, no doubt about it. And we're right now almost at the halfway point of this race. And what else can we see out there? Well, what we can definitely see is that Thomas Weston in the Cyberpunk livery machine trying to chase after Dwayne Hoffman will take that place off him there for overall 28th. Hoffman falls back to 29th as a result of that. And more the priority has got more drivers to take on before he does get close to into drivers. The next closest one will be Sam Hockley in 18th place. But to put that in perspective, when we do show you the timings there up on the screen, he's got a long way to go if he wants to close that down, and that currently for Thomas Weston is a gap of 24.5 seconds. As meanwhile, Milton Tomlinson-Dennis, so I look out my quantity booth window, is into pit lane as the sun gradually sets here in France, and the Southampton Racing driver decided to come in and I think cool the tyres down and cool the car down as well. But Rob Gregg, oh, where's he gone? Well, he's not going straight on there. He's gone wide coming out of the final chicane. I suspect he's made a mistake, and that's going to drop him all the way down to 6th place in club, with Krista Petty squeezing on through there, and Benjamin Massey coming through as well overall, and with Philip Harris not too far behind. So Harris there, not too far adrift, as he tries to make the way down the hill. Right now, it definitely seems to be the Moonshiners Racing Club driver who's lost out there as a result of a big error. But Tomlinson-Dennis has been the first to take a strategic pit stop, and well, perhaps decided with the way the race has gone, it's time better now than ever to risk it all. The only problem is he comes out in amongst a load of cars, some a lap down, as he puts a lap there on Martin Brandon. He's also got plenty of drivers he needs to pass potentially. Well, he'll need to see whether he's timed this right, and potentially will some of the cars in front of me coming into the pit lane by the time he catches up to them. Well, Bradley Setters, they're squeezing them past the Audi, the Axis Sport Audi, making that move just in the nick of time, the relentless racing Mercedes driver. So that will help him chase after Tomlinson-Dennis. But remember, now that Setters is in a different race compared to Tomlinson-Dennis. Tomlinson-Dennis has already served his pit stop. Now Setters has yet to serve his pit stop. So the only value, if he was to get ahead of him, would be to try and hold him up to prevent him from getting some points, and particularly to try and help out his teammates, say Charlie Walker and company, as they look to push on. Of course, we have lost Leighton Austin from this race, but we still do have 3 of the 4 relentless racing cars out there. As we are Philip Harris over the back of Rob Gregg like a bad rash, and we ride on board. And the endurance racing lights on inside the car, the purple light there, the light selected for all GT3 racing machines during night racing typically. I do believe purple is the colour that best assists the eyesight late at night. It has the least amount of eye strain, but also it provides the maximum possible internal visibility inside the cockpit if you're wondering why the lights are purple. But that side, as Philip Harris chases after Rob Gregg, right now still close. They make their way in towards turn 1 once again, but his thought process at the moment is definitely going to be, how does he beat him with Krista Petty also in front? Well, one thing he can always do is potentially gamble on a pit stop a little bit earlier on than others. We're hearing Alfred Kirsten can involve a bit of an incident. Rob Gregg makes a complete ham sandwich out of Estrel Bend, and will Philip Harris here. He's not going to seize this opportunity now. I don't know what more opportunities he's going to need, because this is where drag race down towards Adelaide Bend. He's going to be comfortably on the inside, made his way down towards that braking zone, and well, Rob Gregg's going to switch back to the inside. He's going to try and get it done, the braking and counter him. He will go for it, Rob Gregg, but Harris on the outside is sure he's going to get the better run off the corner, but not a little bit of power oversteer there. And 2 wide as they make their way up towards what will be the chicane. And right now, Harris trying to go around the outside. Will he get it done? They touch, but he will get it done then. Philip Harris, brave move. Rob Gregg's not done. He's going to now dive up the inside here. So Gregg right now throwing everything at this. But then Harris able to outbrake him. Brilliant battle between them. Great respect being shown. And showing you can go 2 wide through the Nürburgring chicane when you wouldn't normally do so. But just now, just behind there, putting a lap on Martin Brandon, and he'll be hoping to catch up to those 2 club drivers and get past them rather quickly when he can. Meanwhile, as we look up to Ben Woodgate, well, the 324 driver right now in control. Jared Love just behind. And we're Love there in the 210, watching on. And hoping to try and find a way in here. But we'll be able to do so. We'll have to wait and see as they head down into that braking zone. But Love still watching and waiting. But the gap that has grown between him and Wesley Van Gertel now standing at 10.5 seconds. I think this is going to be Van Gertel's race to lose at this point, as Rob Gregg has come into pit lane as I look at my Conte booth window. So he's decided, after losing out the position versus Philip Harris, well, he's going to see if he can make it back on overall race time, and therefore through strategy. But meanwhile, Woodgate keeping Love at bay. A bit further up the road, Brandon Dyer, the second place man, 4.5 seconds over Richard Simnor. He's bringing Charlie Walker, Luke Van Gertel and Niels Balkarget to the party as they all make their way into the second half of this race. Time has ticked over. We've still got 30 minutes and a final lap to go. But right now, Brandon Dyer doing an absolutely solid job as he heads down the hill and towards the Complex de l'IC. Through that braking zone they go, and right now the British driver here looking fine at the front, but understand as he bounced away over the curb. That's Niels Balkarget coming straight into the pit lane, so Balkarget doesn't want to be part of the train anymore. I think he feels as though he might have the pace to leap ahead of them, and what if so, it might be a smart call there from the Lamborghini driver NJP Performance. But Charlie Walker and Van Gertel still feel as though staying out there and wearing down the fuel tank is the right call to make. Jack Giles, well, he's on the back of Alfred Kirstein, but look behind and there's Adam Lynch. So Lynch has caught up. And the battle for the club lead between the 2 contenders for the championship, the 2 main contenders at this time. Well, for Giles, if he can win and beat Lynch, Lynch is still going to keep his unending run of podiums, but he will lose some points versus Giles, and that will help Giles just get a little bit closer, which he needs to in these last couple of rounds. Flip side of the coin, of course, is that Lynch right now has the strategic advantage. He can sit behind, he can react to what Giles is doing. Alternatively, he can just save the fuel and match him for what he's doing. To see which way it's going to go, as Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis, meanwhile, having pitted on lap 16, the first driver to really go for a strategic pit stop, although Benjamin Massey did come in on lap 11, we should point out, so he's gone the earliest of everybody, as we understand it, for what will be the mandated pit stop. Well, Tomlinson-Dennis is still struggling past Jordan Butler, and remember, Butler does not have to step aside. There's no blue flag waving, as they're both on the lead lap, but if you're Jordan Butler right now, you'll probably be looking, and when he pulls over to the side immediately on that racing line and says to Tomlinson-Dennis, you can have the inside line, you can have it, thank you very much. And Tomlinson-Dennis will say, thank you, Jordan, as they now make the way on towards next sequence of corners. But just now a bit further behind, side by side here with Philip Harris. Under braking, he's not going to be able to beat the club driver on the brakes there. The Porsche, the better of the 2 on the brakes. And Noel right now finding himself really constrained behind club drivers. A frustrating race for him, but where has Niels Balkarget come out after his pit stop? He's come out in 11th place overall, so he's currently your highest placed driver who has taken a pit stop, as we do show you the number of pit stops on the graphic very shortly. And there you go on the time tower, so you can see who's pitted and who has not. We have lost 3 drivers from this race since the start: Ashley Coupland, Leighton Austin and Martin Kenyon. So in fact we have lost 2 of our 4 Relentless Racing cars, not one of them. And unfortunately we've lost Austin and Coupland. Both were looking in very charging fast positions and cars. I understand it's not worked out for them today. But right now, Niels Balkarget in the NJP Performance car definitely making that headway, and I think hoping that he might be able to put together some very quick sectors right now. But fastest first sector of the race, albeit he's got it very wrong now, I think, coming out of turn number 3. That is Elliott Court. Well, I say he's got it very wrong. I think he's just run wide and took some gravel with him, to be fair. The camera angle not being too flattering. And as they make their way out of 3 in towards 4, these drivers, Alfred Kirstein still fighting with Jack Giles. But Giles right now wanting to try and get away from Adam Lynch. And in fact, Joris Peters-Veem has caught up. So it does look as though Adam Lynch has lost out a little bit. Has he made a mistake somewhere? Not 100% certain, but we have had a bit of difficulty for some of these drivers. Well, I wonder if Adam Lynch has perhaps decided to back off there and just simply let them all take control, because Joris Peters-Veem has found his way through, and I think we do have a reason. So Adam Lynch backed off and let Petersveen pass. Kirsten has then been passed by Petersveen. So Lynch here is playing the game of fuel save and tyre save as much as possible and only focus on fighting with the driver in your class. But we'll have to see what the game plan will be for him in the 167 and whether this extra fuel saving and tyre management will play to his strengths or whether it'll work out in favour of the club class leader. I suspect either way we're definitely going to have a very close race all the way to the end. And Eddie Fearbold, meanwhile, there he is running third in the club class, 18th overall. Milton Tomlinson-Dennis behind him. Tomlinson-Dennis very quickly got past the other Mercedes of Jordan Butler. Well, Fearbold goes intentionally deep there. I think the car was already starting to go deep. He went to turn in and then decided, well, if I'm going to miss the apex slightly, I may as well let the pro driver go. There's no point really trying to hold on to this. So a bit of a smart reaction there from Eddie Fearbold, and Milton Tomlinson-Dennis doesn't need to be told twice. He jumps right on the inside. But as we go closer and closer towards the end of the pit window, a lot of drivers yet to pit. Understanding they don't want to pit if they can help the pit. They want us to hold on the track position. Whereas Harper had that pit stop, of course, on the opening lap with the damage he picked up on the car. And, well, the DKRaceStat.com driver also had that jump start penalty that he served in the pit lane at the same time. And what I do believe that jump start penalty may, in fact, be a stop and hold rather than drive-through penalty for the 3-1-2 driver, at least at this moment. Now, he's got to come into pits at some point. So for him, right now, he is the lowest placed pro driver down in 29th. And he's got a lot of work to do as he makes way onwards. But this is definitely looking to be one of those races where everything has just gone far backwards. We're coming down the hill in towards the braking zone for the Lycée hairpin. He's up the inside of Ashley Shucksmith, and the KFC liveried Ferrari there lets it go. And Shucksmith decides, in fact, to come into pit lane. So he'll get stopped out of the way. He's got nothing to risk by doing so. And, well, of course, he'll lose the place to Rob Gregg most likely shortly. And Dwayne Hoffman, who pits on lap number 19, may also pass Shucksmith. Let's wait and see. Shucksmith being serviced here. Also into the pits on the lead lap. That's Charlie Walker. Now, this will be a response to Nils Balcarges, so we'll have to see which way that goes. But first, Hoffman versus Shucksmith. Here's Hoffman make his way through the chicane. We believe Hoffman might be safe here as Shucksmith makes his way out of the pits, but Hoffman's already clear, so he's looking good. What about Walker versus Nils Balcarger? Well, he's leaving the pit lane behind Shucksmith. Balcarger, here he comes. This is going to be very close between these two. There you can see off to the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That was Charlie Walker. Nils Balcarger is right there, and in the end, this has not quite worked out, or has it? It's apparently going to be an even game between them as they come for Estoril Bend, but Balcarger, in the end, as much as he got close, it's not been enough, but he's going to try to outrun him now. Down the run towards Adelaide Bend here. He has got the warmer tyres. The NJP Performance driver has got a bit of a grip advantage, at least for the first half of this lap. And we're coming on down. Walker defends the inside, using the straight line speed that BMW. Both on the brakes. Walker goes in blazing hot into that braking zone. And the relentless racing driver making back in the 6th place in the pro class. But remember, the more these two fights, they are costing each other time that could be given away to Brandon Dyer and also Corey Price. So right now, this is definitely one of those situations whereby things could be going a bit backwards for both of them. But speaking of things going backwards, we've just had this of Brandon Dyer. Now, this was the man who at the time was running in 2nd overall, 2nd in pro as well, and in the end coming through 180-degree bend, was got the power down the end. The rear of the car completely let go, and suddenly, from Brandon Dyer, that's the spin. Luke Van Goetzel going through to 2nd overall, and Brandon Dyer may have just lost out the time he needed to make sure he's ahead of Charlie Walker and Nils Balcarger when he completes his pit stop. So a twist in the tail there, and I wouldn't be surprised now if we're potentially going to see Luke Van Goetzel take 2nd place overall here today. Or at least be in 2nd place overall when he completes his pit stop. We've got a black flag for Raz Harper, and well, the black flag earlier on was for jumping the start of the race. This one now is going to be for a drive-through penalty for instant points, I believe. And meanwhile, Eddie Fearbold and Jordan Butler, oh goodness me, that's getting a little bit complicated as they come through the Chateau de Neuville bend, and Fearbold there still fighting with Butler. They've yet to pit either of them, but it's about the two Mercedes, and I believe, well, Butler got ahead, and Fearbold decided to go all back at him there into the braking zone. Took a lot of curb to do it. 2-1 they come through the complex to Lycée. Will they complete the battle there? They will, and that's going to be Benjamin Massey there trying to go up the inside through the chicane. That wasn't going to work, and Brady Setters tucking in behind as well. So the two pro drivers, 10th and 11th in class, trying to battle their way past the Wolf and 3rd belligerents in the club class. But back to Walker we go, still trying to fight his way past Nils Balcarger, this time up to the inside. A much more straightforward run into the corner, but Balcarger now tries to come back at him. So Walker going as defensive as humanly possible here to hold this position. Balcarger trying to go absolutely obstinate on the attack. We look back from the rear of your 308 BMW. As they roll the way between the corners right now, well, the relentless racing machine holding on. And, well, for Charlie Walker, this is definitely proving to be one of those races whereby he's going to do more rear guard action. He is forward facing action now. well, understandably, it is just costing more and more time. And particularly the danger now is, are they losing the time to Brandon Dyer? We expected Brandon Dyer to come into the pit lane. No, not yet. He's still staying out. He's going a bit longer still. And I think right now just trying to make up for the lost time from his mistake out of turn at number 9. But as Walker and Balcarget seem to keep locking horns, well, meanwhile Jordan Butler has had Massey and Setters find their way past him. I believe it's due to an off-track alternative. The slowdown penalty is trying to burn, and the 42 Virtual Motorsport driver has lost out to the 2 Pro drivers, and Fearbold will just be that little bit more comfortably ahead. Now in the club class, who has pitted? Rob Gregg is the main candidate who's pitted to be up there. Dwayne Hoffman's also pitted, and Ashley Shucksmith. So therefore, a lot of club drivers have pitted if they're further down the order. But meanwhile, those further up the order have yet to take that pit stop. But how exactly did Jordan Butler find himself battling with Eddie Fearbold only moments ago? Well, here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen, to explain and what a battle it was. So this was the pair making the way up towards the Imola chicane, and in the end he was looking up the inside. In fact, that was into Adelaide, let's correct ourselves. And Butler all in, Fearbold on the outside, and we managed to get ahead initially there in the drag race down towards the next braking zone. That would have been the Nürburgring chicane. And with Butler defending hard on the inside, did he get it done? The answer was yes, a lovely move. And then you saw part 2 when Fearbold went for the counter-attack in towards what was the Chateau d'Air hairpin and found his way back. But Butler has just made his way, well, we thought he'd made his way into the pit lane, not quite. Eddie Fearbold was the one who pitted, so Fearbold's in, Butler stays out. So which way will this go on the strategy, I hear you ask? We'll have to wait and see as Fearbold rolls his way onwards. But as he does, he finds the side-by-side company there of none other than Martin Brandon, and the Audi driver unlaps himself for a moment, but I suspect he might put a lap down a bit later on. Richard Simnor comes into the pit, so Brandon Dyer now goes into lead this race. There's Ben Woodgate staying out, and then there's Richard Simnor parked up. Luke Van Goertel's also coming behind. Jared Love goes on to lead a lap of the interclass in this race, albeit knowing that Luke Van Goertel had the strategic advantage. We've got a lot more pit stops occurring now, and well, Richard Simnor makes it out of pit road, and as he does so, surely he's going to be more than safe here. He will be the leading driver who has made his pit stop. Nils Balcarget and Charlie Walker come along, and in fact, they gained a bit of time on Richard Simnor, but their fighting has cost them the effective time gain. So therefore, the gap to Richard Simnor is now 7.5 seconds. I suspect if they had not been fighting, that gap would have been about 3.5 seconds. They would have gained as a result of that undercut pit stop, but the fight between Walker and Balcarget has cost them dear. Van Goertel's come out ahead as well, so Van Goertel, we predicted, is now second on the road strategically. We'll have to wait and see whether Dyer and Woodgate can potentially put a fork in his aspirations, but if not, Luke Van Goertel here, well, this could be the run-up spot overall, and that would be a huge performance for the MJK SimRacing driver, and well, he'll be absolutely ecstatic he's able to make that happen. Meanwhile, more stops occurring as Philip Harris makes one around. He has yet to come into the pit lane in club. Jack Giles, meanwhile, makes his way out of the pits. So Harris is therefore the on-track leader, but not the strategic leader. And Giles and Lynch, the gap has increased to 1.1 seconds after the pit stops. They both came in on lap 25, but Giles had the quicker pit stop by, well, it's been a couple of attempts, and it just caused the gap to play out a little bit. But Adam Lynch now, I think, will get his head down at this point and decide, right, now it's time to go on the attack. The only thing he's got to be worried about is the fact that Giles' teammate for Euro Titans Endurance, Adam Smith, is there. And, well, if Adam Smith were to play the team game, he would try to make a move on Adam Lynch. He'd try and catch him and make the pass to buy Jack Giles some space, and then he would prove, obviously, to be a bit difficult to pass for Adam Lynch. And, well, understandably, Adam Smith could argue he's trying to chase after interpositions, but we will see what's to be. But as Richard Simnor retakes the lead of the race, meanwhile, Van Goertel carries on in second. Where's Brandon Dyer coming out? Well, there he is, but Charlie Walker and Nils Balcarget have cleared him. Ben Woodgate leads the pit lane as well. Does he come out ahead of Corey Price? Well, the Inter Racing Team driver is going to see the Darkwing racing car make his way the inside in towards Estoril Bend, and Corey Price will just squeeze ahead of the man in the identical livery, but they are racing for two different teams as the purposes of this championship. But in fact, to switch back there from Woodgate coming out of Estoril Bend, he will get on the inside, so it's going to be a battle down towards Adelaide Bend. Corey Price here going on from as we ride on board the front bumper of the Darkwing Racing Dutchman's car. Which on the outside here goes all in on the brakes, but then again on the inside, Woodgate can really make this corner as difficult as he possibly can for Price. That's exactly what he's going to do, and Woodgate reasserts himself in 5th place in Pro and 6th overall. But meanwhile, a bit further back, Adam Smith still chasing after Adam Lynch. He's got a 1.6 second gap to Alfred Kirsten. do believe all our pit stops now are done, or if not, it's for drivers who are a bit out of the sequence. Bradley Setters has just completed his pit stop, and just Noel will clear him. There'll be Noel the Ferrari coming in from stage left, and Noel moves back into 11th place in the Pro class and 20th overall. Christopher Petty, meanwhile, too wide here versus Philip Harris, who serves his pit stop. So Petty will retake 5th place in the club class. But look at this from Philip Harris, who's going to come on strong as they make the way out to the corner. Will Petty in the end gets that Estrel bend absolutely nailed together. And that's the good thing about the pit exit here at Magny-Cours. It sets you up with a very quick run coming out to Estrel bend down towards Adelaide. But other than that, you are on the outside and you have to give way to those on the inside if you're in a too wide. And so Harris almost managed to find a way back at Petty, but it didn't quite work out. As they make their way out to the corner, right now rolling the way down towards what will be turn number 7 and 8. And Christopher Petty has definitely asserted himself in that 5th place in the club class. Harris will try and come back in due time. But with all that happening, where's the other battles going on? Well, Bobby Moss has got Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis for close company just when he felt clear enough to be in 3rd in the interclass, clear of Kyle Roy by 4 seconds, and only 2.5 seconds away from Jared Love as the ambient light is definitely going down. I don't think we're going to be full night time here, but we're not going to be far from it local time now. For Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis at this point, we're getting the power down. He'll go up the inside here in the Lamborghini drive, just trying to recover what he can out of this race. And the Samsung racing the STR car, the 329, will take that place there 9th overall. So not a class position, but he'll know that just ticks off one more box where he does get close to the class positions. Next over Jared Love in the interclass, and then it will be a fellow classmate for Tomlinson-Dennis of what will be their Corey Price. But as these drivers make their way towards the end of lap 28, Simnor's almost there already, and right now your leader overall, 6.7 seconds is the gap he's got, and for the DCW Racing Blue driver, his 2nd win of the season is creeping closer and closer for every lap he does, albeit he's still got plenty of time out there and he won't be resting on his laurels just yet. Charlie Walker and Niels Balcarga are there, Brandon Dyer behind, and they're all coming down the hill, they're catching up to Luke Van Gertel. Van Gertel right now actually feeling a bit of pressure here as he comes down through turn number 15, and goes a bit wide there going to Lacey Hairpin, but it's all about setting up that line through the chicane, so therefore the MJQ Sim Racing driver feeling a bit of distant pressure perhaps, and trying not to let it get to him. The battle's definitely calming down now for these drivers. Well, understandably, at this point in the day, there's not too much time left, and it's all going to be now about who you've ended up around and who you can fight with there. Unless, of course, you've not fueled the car correctly, then we may see some drives suddenly has made a quick splash and dash into the pit lane, but hopefully not so. As we have got some slowdown penalties. Adam Smith's got one, and so has just Noel, both for different parts of the track, both breaching track limits and being seen to have gained some time. And we do know the slowdown penalties here at Magny-Cours, some of the most aggressive on the iRacing Simulator platform. I do believe some of the corners, for the smallest of cuts, you will be picking up a 2 to 3 second slowdown penalty. That's going to massively hurt out there, no doubt about it. Adam Smith still holding on to 5th in Inter, with Alfred Kirstein close by him, but also look at Sam Hockley. And Hockley is closing up to the pair of them, or has been, although that last lap, in fact, seeing the gap reopen. So Hockley, it comes and it goes to the Chaps Motorsport driver. And right now, the feral Chap driver, as I think he'd referred to himself, carrying on. There's McLaren, but definitely still got some work to do if he wants the top 5 in the class. But as Denny Ploger says, Luke does not know what pressure means. And, well, he's definitely going to find out the meaning shortly if they're able to pressure him into a mistake. However, for Van Gertel, he's looking good. We jump on board with the 4th place driver overall, Niels Balcarga, who right now staying close to Charlie Walker. But remember, that at that battle with Relentless Racing, the Relentless Racing driver trying to go for the undercut, he almost succeeded in doing it, but the BMW proved just to be a little bit too quick in the run out of Estrel down towards Adelaide, and that's been the difference between them. And now they're all up to temperature, and they've got Van Gertel to act as what will be a bit of a third party in this battle. Well, it's something to change the complexion of it. That we look forward to seeing. But Richard Simnor, race leader, of course, won't be looking behind him at the moment, and the more these free fight, the more he will have his gap open up for him. But meanwhile, we come back to Elliott Court, chasing after Benjamin Massey still, the DDK with RaceStatBot.com driver. Well, after what was an absolute monster start, when it all went wrong, it all became a bit of a monster race, and a bit of a diabolical one at that. He's still chasing after Benjamin Massey, who's right on board the dashboard of the 318, and we're coming all the way through. Turn number 3 at the moment. Man's definitely enjoyed plenty of open wheels in real life at Fruxton, as his profile picture would suggest. Well, and a bit too much apex there, a bit too much grass coming for Estrel Bend. And suddenly, with that slip, losing time to Benjamin Massey, so that's not helped him at all as they make their way down towards the hairpin. But we've had a bit of an instant for Philip Harris, meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen. He's just recovered the car, but in doing so, I believe he's lost out 5th place in club versus Christophe Petty. And well, what exactly happened? Here's a quick replay to explain. So this was Harris at the time. Made his way into the braking zone there behind the, I believe, what was the TSRC car, and we'll lost the rear of the car, and well, in the end, Christophe Petty, well, no, in fact, he was chasing Christophe Petty there, so he was in pursuit. Petty had already made the move, and Harris was trying to come back at him, and it didn't work out. This was how Petty had made that move. And well, of course, it was exiting the pit lane, Philip Harris leaving the pits, and Petty, meanwhile, to go around the outside there and just about snuck ahead, although it was very close between the two of them. And we did see Philip Harris get the better run off of the corner, although had to ride the white line there to try and make the move happen. But in the end, Petty made sure to box him in on the inside of that corner, and well, nothing came of it. But meanwhile, we come back to your live race, and is there more to come of the battle? We will see, as Benjamin Massey and Elliott Court still together. And once they bounce over the curves, Massey there having the rear of the car let go, but because he's cut the curb too high, he picks up a slowdown, and unfortunately he will relinquish that position to Elliott Court the only way he doesn't want to, which is with a slowdown penalty. Adam Lynch, meanwhile, closing up to Jack Giles here for the lead of the club class. This could be the biggest battle on circuit for the remainder of the race, ladies and gentlemen. 10 minutes and a final lap to go, and Adam Lynch right now absolutely pushing on here as much as he possibly can. The priority in the 167, very eager to make that move. Alfred Kirsch and Adam Smith behind. We can see these two still nose down. The Simstrap by Glass Tech racing driver all over the back of Smith. But doesn't seem to be coming forward at least now for 5th place in the interclass. But those are the two big battles, as well. I do believe Lynch just lost out a little bit through Estoril Bend. He's had to back off, so therefore the gap to Giles has reopened. We do know that Adam Lynch has got the pace to get close, but he's getting close at the wrong places right now. That's the problem he's having. But meanwhile, as he makes his way out of the hairpin, a bit further down the order, James Fraser still trying to chase after his teammate of Rob Gregg from Moonshine's Racing Club. There's Greg at the bottom of your camera going on past, and there's James Fraser, but they're definitely outside the hunt for the top 5 in the club class at the moment. But they are well clear of the rest of the club field, with Dwayne Hoffman 22 seconds behind, and will actually Chuck Smith an even further distance behind than that. But meanwhile, as they carry on, and then we see Smith under that pressure from Kirsten. So Kirsten with the front bumper back on his Mercedes. He's getting ready for an essential move here. Is he going to go for it in towards Imola? Knows the answer. He waits elsewhere as we jump on board with the Slim Strap by Glass Tech racing Mercedes. But here is with the Chateau hairpin. I don't think that's going to be a place to go for a move unless he goes for a switchback. And Will Smith makes a very poor run out of it. And in fact, he does make a poor run out of it. I don't think Kirsten expected this. And as he comes down the hill here, looking once, he's going to look twice into the bend. Smith goes defensive. Kirsten has to back off there. But understandably, he will go deep through the hairpin. In the end for Alfred Kirsten, not quite able to capitalise there. Adam Smith defending very well as they go on to another lap. They go on to their 32nd tour of the circuit. And right now there's battle for 5th in the interclass. Absolutely on a knife edge, given the fact that Sam Hockley is right there behind as well. 7th place into drive right now, but he may have his own aspirations to steal these places away before the very end. But speaking of the end, well, right now Jared Love knows no end to his need to try and keep drives behind him, as that's Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis on his recovery drive. Currently one of the fastest drives out on circuit, and Tomlinson-Dennis with 36.13 with the whole 7/10 taken quicker than Love last time around. In fact, that was the quickest of everybody out there. Not the fastest lap of the race. That's in the hands of Niels Balkarga at 36.06. Comes close to it, but whilst all this is playing out, meanwhile, come back to Smith versus Kirsten, coming in towards the Nürburgring chicane. This time as they make their way through, well, Alfred Kirsten close, but still just not able to get on the inside of 180-degree bend. And well, the frustration definitely building there right now. He's got all the pace, but he's not getting close enough when he needs to. And I believe just now bringing a slow down penalty off camera, and that's going to drop him a bit further back. But Kirsten here, still not able to pull the trigger on that move, at least for now. Meanwhile, a yellow flag, a slow down penalty for Bobby Moss off camera. So Moss has lost a bit more time, and Kyle Roy only 2.5 seconds behind. Will Roy get into the mix there for what could be 3rd place? In fact, yes, it would be 3rd place in the interclass. We'll have to wait and see. But meanwhile, will Kirsten go for the move in towards Lycée? No, he will not. But whilst all this is happening, Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis and Jared Love, well, they're going to swap places around there, coming down towards Adelaide on lap number 33. And Tomlinson-Dennis, they're easily able to get up the inside, and Jared Love does not make that complicated whatsoever for him. As we look from them up to the very front of the field, Richard Simnor right now Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to put the commentator's curse on this race, but right now for Simnor, he's definitely looking to be losing his lead. It has come down to 4.9 seconds, and Luke van Goertel is chasing him, and that gap, the last lap from Luke van Goertel at 36.60, Simnor at 37.04. So 4.5 tenths being closed up there. But understandably, it might be through negotiating a bit of lap down traffic, including the car of James Fraser, who will shortly be stepping away. He has got a slowdown penalty as well. So Fraser's going to go straight on there in order to let the lead group through. So a noble sacrifice there from James Fraser. And Luke van Goertel might be hoping he can close up a bit more as they come behind. Machining of Rob Gregg, who's going to step aside, but Van Goertel, I think he wants this overall win right now, and he can smell it's getting closer and closer. But a black flag for Elliott Court. That is a drive-through penalty for track limits and instant points. The DDKRaceStock.com drive is going to have to sacrifice that 8th place in Pro, 12th overall, and Benjamin Massey's going to take that off him shortly. And for Massey, I believe when he takes that off him, that is going to be the sign of what could be his best result of the season. We do just double check, and I believe it would be, ladies and gents. So Massey would right now be, of course, probably some big points for himself. And well, Santa could definitely get him towards the top 12 in the Pro Championship. But further back, Smith versus Kirsten again, coming down the hill in towards Licey Bend, and Kirsten still there, and not able to make that move. And right now, Adam Smith doing everything right at the moment to hold on. Meanwhile, Jack Giles here under pressure from Adam Lynch, and well, it's not been the greatest of runs through the chicane this time. That gap had grown, but suddenly Jack Giles under pressure here on lap 34, and with our leader almost to the end of the 34th lap. We suspect they've got this lap plus another 3 to go. So therefore, this is definitely right now one of those races for Jack Giles. He just wants this race over at this point. However, it's far from that as they head onwards. Meanwhile, you can see them in the rear of the picture. Here comes Alfred Kirsten looking for a move, as here comes Adam Lynch looking for a move. But he's too far back there to go for it. Meanwhile, Adam Smith having a break very late here, and the Euro Tyson's Endurance Drive having to fend off Alfred Kirsten's intentions. Doing so well enough at the moment, and unfortunately for Sam Hockley, he's just having to play third party as he hasn't got the pace to get involved. But does he really want to get involved at the moment when the two in front may elbow each other off the road? That's always a fault, because the more time you spend playing passive, the less time you've got trying to make a move. As Adam Lynch trying to look up the inside, it's a poor run through 180 there for Jack Giles. They touch, and as they come through turn number 9, 10 and 11. All right, now Giles trying to hold on here, but Adam Lynch really pushing the envelope. They roll onwards, looking up the inside in towards Imola Bend, but it's a fake out there. Lynch does not go for it. He tries to get Giles to go too deep through the corner, but Giles doesn't fall for that. And into the braking zone they come for the corner. He goes very late on the brakes there. Does the privateer when he gets a face for the AB Designs logo on the back of the Euro Titans Endurance car. Gets to see who designed that livery. A lovely livery, it must be said. But right now he can't be thinking about that. What he's got to be thinking about here is trying to find a way through here to take another win if he can. Behind, Smith and Kirsten are fight each other hard as well. We can see that, and that's going to be Alfred Kirsten on the inside. Adam Smith, he will take that place there, and Alfred Kirsten finally finds a way into 5th place in the class, and suddenly Sam Hockley's going to be all over the back there as they make their way in towards Grander Curve. Does he go all in? Yes, he does. Does he get his nose in? Not quite, and the 254 try in the end has to let it go, although he almost made it happen, and we get a quick replay as to how he made that move. So this was Alfred Kirsten coming out of the Château de Bend, as he did so. A poor run there from Adam Smith, costing the momentum he needed to be safe. He'd been nailing that lap after lap, but at long last, Alfred Kirsten find a way to get a mistake out of Adam Smith. It's rare to do so. On the inside then to Lice, he was never going to back out from that. He was going to force it to go too wide through the chicane if needed, and that's how Alfred Kirsten took that 5th place in the interclass. But whilst that's happened, meanwhile, we have had this change between Niels Buck-Hagen and Charlie Walker. And this was a brief battle between the two of them. And coming down towards Adelaide Hairpin, it was Walker defend on the inside. Buck-Hagen on the outside, trying to outbrake him and go around the outside. But the relentless racing driver is parking up in the apex there and hold his line once again as we head back to your live racing. But as we do come back, 3 minutes still to go, and understandably right now the tension, you could cut it with a knife, and Jack Giles trying to hold on here, and well, if he does bring this home in the club class, it would be his 2nd win of the season and his 4th podium, and it'll stop Adam Lynch from making a triplet of wins and a 4th win of the season. But right now, Adam Lynch here really eager for this. Brandon Dyer, he's got Ben Woodgate for close company in the battle of the two McLarens. That's going to be Woodgate up the inside into Adelaide. So there we go. It's going to be a move on, and now they head up towards Nürburgring. Well, too wide between the two McLarens. Dyer on the outside, and Woodgate immediately tucks in. Now he's not got the run. He's not going to be able to beat Brandon Dyer in towards that braking zone. Corey Price and Milton Tomlinson-Dennis. Well, Tomlinson-Dennis has closed up to him incredibly quickly. The full floodlights on the front there of the Dutchman's car. Meanwhile, Tomlinson-Dennis has not got his floodlights on. as they make the way around. I wonder if he's picked up some damage on the front of that. The Lamborghini can't switch them on now. Well, either way, definitely right now, trying to find a bright idea as Tomlinson-Dennis to make a pass. And Corey Price trying to hold on to that 6th place in pro and 7th overall as best as he can. But tries to put it in towards the chicane. And Charlie Walker still holding off Niels Barkage for a run-up in pro and 3rd overall. And, well, Luke van Goertel, meanwhile, 3 seconds up the road, looking safe and clear. But meanwhile, as they head down the hill, Walker has to go defensive again. And, well, Barkage trying to go round. But meanwhile, for Richard Simnor, it's one more lap. He goes on to that 37 to 37 we'll see here today. The white flag waves. Can he hold on for just a little bit longer? Because Van Goertel is closing by half a second a lap. But right now, for 3-second gap, surely he's going to be safe. Price versus Tomlinson-Dennis. It is still Price holding him off at the moment. And meanwhile, in the club lead battle, it is Jack Giles comfortably ahead of Adam Lynch by 2 tenths, and that doesn't sound too comfortable, but when they're squeezing their way through and Alfred Kirsten's trying to get involved, it's understandable why. And in fact right now the Inter driver trying to fight his way in amongst the club drivers, and Adam Lynch is not going to be happy about this at all. And suddenly, well, Jack Giles has battled Lynch into Kirsten, and Kirsten makes it too wide here. Now what does Adam Lynch do at this point? Does he give it up or does he fight it? Well, I think he's going to let it go. Meanwhile, Adam Smith and Sam Hockley, well, Hockley's up the inside there, goes all in for the Chaps Motorsport privateer outfit. And he'll take that place for Adam Smith. Lovely move there and gets it done like clockwork. But meanwhile, back to Corey Price versus Tomlinson-Dennis. And here they come in towards Nürburgring. Tomlinson-Dennis trying to go around the outside. That's not going to work. He's going to back off there. They can't go too wide at that speed. And win towards 180 they come. And as they do, right now Corey Price holding on as long as he can. But definitely have to work Lamborghini as much as he possibly can versus the championship leader in the pro category. Apart from them, Charlie Walker still with Niels Barkage breathing down his neck. But as the clock strikes 0, ladies and gentlemen, it can mean only one thing for this man. Was he heads his way down the hill? Well, he's very happy, there's no doubt about it, because for Richard Simnor, it was a result that went away at Suzuka, what could have been his 2nd win. But here today, he finally takes it. Simnor wins for the 2nd time this season here at Magny-Cours, ahead of Luke van Goertel, who takes the interclass win with a phenomenal drive to 2nd overall. Charlie Walker be run up in pro and 3rd overall there, ahead of Niels Barkage, with Brandon Dyer just fended off Ben Woodgate to line, and Corey Price and Milton Tomlinson-Dennis will come through as they were. Jared Love will come across line there in 2nd place in the interclass, 9th overall ahead of his main rival Bobby Moss, who takes 3rd in the interclass, 10th overall. And Kyle Roy, well, what a return to the top 5 in a much better race day for the Axis since what the Simworks driver. He takes 11th ahead of Benjamin Massey, a season best 12th place and 8th in pro. Elliot Court comes through ahead of Joris Petersveem. But what about in the club class? And right now here they come down, and as we can see for Giles holding to 15th overall, he's got Alfred Kirsten behind. Now surely at this point Kirsten will happily act as his rear guard, having cleared both what is Sam Hockley and Adam Smith, and he will do indeed, as right now for Jack Giles, he scores his 2nd win in the club class this season, his best overall result of 15th. Alfred Kirsten will complete the top 5 of Inter, and Adam Lynch, it's not a 4th win, but his podium streak continues, and he knows that Jack Giles has gained minimum ground on him in the championship. Sam Hockley, Adam Smith and Just Nell complete your top 20. Then we have Bradley Setters, who comes home in 21st place, head of Jordan Butler, who misses out on the top 2, but he takes a brilliant podium in the club class as the full tilt virtual motorsport driver. You can see how much that means to him as he weaves his way down the start-finish straight. He's gone under the radar a bit after his battles with Eddie Fearbold, but he got the upper hand. Christopher Petty takes 4th place in the club class ahead of Eddie Fearbold, and they will complete your lead lap finishers down to 24th place inclusive. And for Fearbold today, well, he was able to get ahead of Butler earlier on, but Butler got the upper hand in the end and was able to make sure that final spot on the club podium came to him. And for Jordan Butler, that is going to be only his 2nd podium of the season. His first one, of course, was in the season opener. It was a 3rd place, and Jordan Butler takes another one here today. But Simnor soaks up the scenes right now for DCW Racing Blue, and well, he's going to be absolutely ecstatic about this after he made the wrong call and strategy at Suzuka to stay on the wet, and when in the end locked himself into a battle with Milton Tomlinson-Dennis, which he didn't want to, and what he was saying, I do believe down in the paddock afterwards to the DCW team, the fact he wanted to go to slicks, but something told him in his mind not to. Well, in the end, he should have listened to his heart, not his mind. But here today, he's had the heart and the mind to make sure he's made it that 2nd win of the season. And for Jack Giles, well, a 2nd club win. The Euro Titans Endurance Drive, having to do it the hard way, having taken what was that brilliant lap in qualifying, and then able to find a way ahead of Adam Lynch when Adam Lynch had to back off for the wayward car Joris Petersveem. And at that point, the pressure was on, but for Jack Giles, he withstood the pressure, and well, he's going to need some bigger results between now and the season finale to try and level the playing field. But understandably, if he's going to be second best this season, he's going to make sure that Adam Lynch will know that he wasn't too far away in reality. But as they all cooling down, ladies and gentlemen, and the circuit starts to go silent, let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see in the end, after a brilliant 60 minutes of racing for round number 8 here at the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours in the Superstar split of Season 12 of the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship, hosted and presented to you on iRacing, Richard Simnor taking his second overall and pro win of the season for DCW Racing Blue by 2.1 seconds in the end over a highly impressive and competitive Luke van Goertel. And the MJK SimRacing driver has enjoyed Magny-Cours as a hunting ground in the past, and we've shown exactly why here today, taking second overall, roaring his way all the way through from 11th through to second. And with the Interwin comfortably in his hands as well, what ran off that overall podium was the pro of Charlie Walker for Relentless Racing, who had to dig in deep to make sure that he converted that third place start into a spot on the podium. He was run up in pro, and third on the pro podium, Niels Balkaga, who tried the undercut, but it just didn't quite work out in the end. He was just shy by 0.3 of a second in the undercut versus Walker, and after two fought hard, well, it was Walker who was able to hold off the NJP Performance Lamborghini. Still, Balkaga was ahead of Brandon Dyer, who was a further 4 seconds behind, and Dyer will be kicking himself for that spin coming out of the hairpin, and into, well, not the hairpin, out of the complex to IC, the hairpin into chicane, which cost him the chance of being the run-up in pro and third overall today. Ben Woodgate wasn't too far behind for the Inter-Racing team in the battle of the McLarens, in the end losing out by what was 2.5 tenths, but he was ahead of Corey Price by 5 seconds, with the Darkwing Racing driver making sure to fend off Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis. The Samantha Town Racing driver had it all go wide out of the opening couple of quarters, and after that it all slipped backwards for him as he had to settle for 8th. Here Jared Love, who was the run-up in the Interclass, but 9th overall for DDK with RaceStatBot.com, and Bobby Moss was slowly closing on him, but ran out of time and ran out of pace, it would seem, for the SimRacing Collective Esports. Still, he completed the top 10 ahead of Kyle Roy, who was best dressed in 11th place at Axis Sport with SimWorks, and a much happier results day for the Scotsman is Aston Martin. He was the second ahead of Benjamin Massey for Inox Motorsport, enjoying a season best performance in class and overall, and Elliot Court was just behind by the best part of 13 seconds for DDK RaceStatBot.com, going on a recovery drive and did very well to recover, all things considered, but not the day he wanted once again. Joris Petersen, the priority, was just ahead of Jack Giles, and in the end, Giles came home your club winner and 15th overall. The Euro Titans endurance driver doing a phenomenal job to fend off the pressure of Adam Lynch, and he was helped to a degree by Alfred Kirshner, who split the two in 16th place. Lynch, therefore, had to sit in 17th but take run-up in the club class ahead of Sam Hockley and Adam Smith, and we did see Just Noel complete the top 20. Outside the top 20, in 21st place, it was Bradley Setters for Relentless Racing, who made a good recovery effort, no doubt about it, after an early instant with what was being collected by the wayward cart of Joris Petersveen, we believe, at Adelaide Bend. And we did see Jordan Butler and Christopher Petty not too far adrift from each other, and in the full tilt virtual motorsport drive, bringing home the final spot on the club podium. Petty bringing home 4th in class and 23rd overall ahead of fellow priority Eddie Fearbold, who was your last lead lap finisher. And he also lap down to the Moonshiners Racing Club pair of James Fraser and Rob Gregg, and also lap down to Thomas Weston, Ashley Shucksmith, Dwayne Hoffman. 2 laps down there to Martin Brandon, and it was 7 laps down, but he will be classified as a finisher, I do believe, because of the laps that count. It was 7 laps down to Philip Harris. Sadly, it'll be non-finishes as classified for Raz Harper, Martin Kenyon, Leighton Austin, and Ashley Coupland. But ladies and gentlemen, we then come to your individual classes, because this is where the points are made and paid. And here we can see in the pro class, firstly, Richard Simnor, a second win. He opened up a gap of 7 seconds midway through the race and then let the gap come back down in the end. But still, it was a gap of 6.5 seconds that saw him take his second win of the season ahead of Charlie Walker and Niels Balkaga, who fought hard for the run-up spot, but it was Walker who got the upper hand versus the German. But then we came to British drivers, because Brandon Dyer and Ben Woodgate completed your top 5, the two separated by 2.5 tenths at the finish line. Then we did see Corey Price in 6th place there for Darkwing Racing, and we're making sure that Milton Tomlinson-Dennis could not fight his way past him. For Milton Tomlinson-Dennis, well, it was a win that all slipped out of his hands, and Richard Simnor will now become the championship leader with 2 rounds to go, and Tomlinson-Dennis will fall to effectively what will be 3rd place. But Benjamin Massey, meanwhile, he'll make some ground. He'll be tapping on the top 12 in the class for Inox Motorsport now, with Elliot Court there in 9th place ahead of Joris Petersveen. They were your top 10, and we did see in 11th place Justin Noel ahead of Bradley Setters, and unfortunately it was non-finishes for Raz Harper, as it was for Leighton Austin and Ashley Coupland. Meanwhile, in the Interclass, We could see Luke van Goertel in the end not having things go the way he wanted it whatsoever in previous rounds, but here today, everything definitely went his way, and goodness me, what pace he did have. The MJK SimRacing driver, 15 seconds clear, DDK with RaceStatBot.com's Jared Love. Still for Jared Love, it's not a loss here because he was able to beat his main championship rival Bobby Moss, who finished behind him there by only 2 seconds for the SimRacing Collective Esports, and Kyle Roy completed the top 4 for Axis SimSport with SimWorks, best part of 28 seconds ahead of Alfred Kirsten. Kirsten did valiantly to hold on versus Sam Hockley and Adam Smith, with Hockley in the end able to find a way past Smith, as Kirsten did as well, and Adam Smith having to settle for 7th for Eurotitans Endurance with his McLaren just running out of pace right in the late stages. Thomas Weston was a lap down in the Cyberpunk Privateer Lamborghini, and it was a non-finish for Martin Kenyon. And as for the club class, here we did see Jack Giles get a win back on Adam Lynch. 2 wins for Jack Giles this season. Meanwhile, for Adam Lynch, 3 wins so far, but a never-ending podium streak for the privateer. The Eurotitans Endurance driver just chiseling away at the lead of Lynch. The gap between the two at the finish line was the second, but they were the best part of 21 seconds ahead of Jordan Butler, who was third for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. Then we did see a further, what was 9 seconds behind, Krista Petty. Eddie Theobald, 5th place there, the privateer, 3 seconds further adrift, but he was a lap ahead as classified of James Fraser and Rob Gregg, with the Moonshiners Racing Club drivers finishing ahead of Ashley Shucksmith and Dwayne Hoffman on that lap down. 2 laps down, completing the race, the Audi of Axis SimSport with SimWorks' Martin Brandon, and we did see as well 7 laps down, but classified as a finisher, Philip Harris for Eurotitans Endurance. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that completes our rundown of the race results, but it doesn't quite complete our rundown of this broadcast today, because coming up in approximately 5 minutes' time, we bring you post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. I'm sure they've got plenty to say, so let's not tarry today. Let's get ready to see what they've got to say to us here in the commentary booth, and we'll be back very shortly for those interviews. And it's lights out and away we go for our season opener as Sardply gets a good start, but look alongside him and you'll see there Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis immediately going the attack into the braking zone. 1 drive into the grass already, that's Mikey Story, but 3 wide they come into the opening corner. That's a bold move there. William Humphrey makes the place as they make the way through in towards turn number 2. I think the Altitude 3M Esports driver here might just be fancying his chances once again as they come into the braking zone now for turn number 1, and as they make the way from right into left, well, Hayden Miller here side by side with him. They'll go all the way through to turn number 3, and Saunders does take the place there. That's for overall position, not for pro position. Saunders is the pro leader, but he goes a bit deep there at 3 to the inside of 4 then, and Miller right now enjoying this. Saunders enjoying it. A little bit of rub and contact between the 2 of them, but nothing wrong with a bit of bump and grind between the 2 Ford, for the Ford and the Corvette, 2 Americans I should say. And
with those 2 Evo drivers in front of them, because they're basically in a completely different race, they're just a barrier up towards the likes of Rubino and Wendell. Oh, there's Rubino going off the road, and here comes James Bostock, past 1, past 2. This is a great little move from James.
Oh, and look behind him as well. Hardiak, up high, he decides to come back down low. But Denny Plurger has really lost a lot of ground here. He's lost 7 places since the start of this race in that green Porsche. It is, but look at this for the lead. Hammond wants it. He's gone back down the inside. He got off the brakes again to let the car down the inside of Rob Mackay. And you said Rob was going to be clinging on at the front. And now he's clinging on to second. Great move by Lewis Hammond. Really good committed stuff. And look, down the inside, Richard White. He wants a piece of this in the Porsche. He's got James Bostock.
And it's lights out and away we go here as Mirko Bortolotti goes exactly on the green, and as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, Martin Statman side by side with him, but look behind Tim Perry under pressure and Miguel Leon immediately as the Enosis Esports driver tries to put the pressure on. Further back we've got 3, 4 wide, they're all in the crush as they come through the opening bank. Look back for the rear of your second place runner Statman, and Statman right now for the Gazex Racing team. What he's trying to do here, I think now, is just hold on to second, and if needed, he may have to act as a bit of a buffer and perhaps sacrifice a little bit of his race for the race leader here, although Bortolotti, to be fair, I think might be holding some pace back, but here comes Lux in the tow, in towards what we roller coaster they come with the Virginian corkscrew. It's left into right very quickly here as they both make the way, and it's 2 wide on entry, but Lux gets ahead. It's up into second now, as it will be Martin Statman falling down to 3rd, but Callum Lux does clear another one, and now only 1 car is between him and an opportunity of victory here, which is Perry going to make the move, or I'm going to have to make the move for him? Well, there's your answer. Perry's going to go on the inside here of Dean into the braking zone. Edwards gets to watch it from the popcorn seat view. Perry there being too wide on exit. Dean's going to try and hang around the outside. Does Edwards think about going up the inside as well? He gets himself ready for it in case there's contact, but there's not. Perry there being fair. Dean tucks back in behind. Lovely move there from Tim Perry. And I think meanwhile Beardsworth will hope they don't get close up in time, as Beardsworth's going to look up the inside. He goes all in, and it's from very far back. He gets it stopped, however, and Beardsworth there nails the move, but Tillerson's going to come back at him up the hill. Does he go in on the brakes here? This is bold to do it on the inside. No, he does not. And Brian Beardsworth at the end, he gets it wrong. He goes out wide at turn number 6. Tillerson's going to be too wide with him, but too wide they're going to turn 7. Tillerson goes for the switch back there. 9 is no way through, and in the end they come down towards turn number 8. Well, there Tillerson backs off. He lets Hutchinson go around the outside, but is it the right call? Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time to kick off our post-round interviews. And how could we not start off with a man who has now become a 2-time winner this season, because joining me now in the interview room is your pro and overall winner today. It's Richard Simnor. Richard, good evening to you. And it all slipped out your hands at Suzuka when it was looking so good last time out, but here today, you haven't let it slip. It's your second win of the season.
Thank you. I didn't think you'd let me go without mentioning Suzuka. Yeah, great. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? I mean, what a way to come back. Certainly felt really disappointed after last week. I don't know why I stayed on wets. I just fully had it in my head I was going to do dries. I even set the car up to switch to dries and everything. And then it was just like memories of Fuji came back where I switched to dries and it didn't work out. So I was like, oh, stay on wets then. It was just completely the wrong decision. So, I'm great. It's great to bounce back. I had a game plan at the start. I've done several league races around here, so I knew that as long as I can sort of bully the inside to the sort of T3, I should get a good run and get the inside for the hairpin. But thankfully for me, I don't know what happened to Milton, but he just sort of almost like hit the brakes and went backwards, and then I just had to defend the inside. Corvette today. It to be fair, the setup was really loose, and it took me a lot of practice on the cold tyres at the start of the race to sort of work out where the grip level was and what sort of throttle inputs I needed to sort of feather into it through those first few corners, and even going into like the third lap, you're still sort of on edge, trying to work out if you've got the grip or not through that first few corner sections. But it paid off. It paid off. Yeah, it seemed quite academic after that, which, as I like to say, I quite like the quiet races where I can just sort of do my lap time, and that's kind of what I settled into. Just sort of made sure I was hitting the pace that I wanted to set. I didn't want to go too mad. And then there was a couple of laps where I had to give myself a good telling off because I was over driving and making mistakes and dropping a second here or there, and probably made the finish a bit closer than it needed to be. But then I was just sort of really just sort of edging off it a little bit the last few laps, just to make sure I didn't make any real big mistakes. It's like I say, it's very academic. When you've got that much of a lead, it's easy to sort of meter out the pace a little bit. But what a great circuit. I love this circuit. It's such a fun one. I was just sharing with Jordan some of the clips of some TCR races that I'd done around here where, some of the passes were absolutely wild through the chicanes. We had like cars just jumping the sausage curbs and all this kind of stuff. It's pretty mental. So I kind of knew how to take it all and where the limits were on all the corners. But yeah, I'm gutted to miss out on pole actually, because I thought I had it really solidly in the bag, and then Milton comes along and does what Milton does best, and he absolutely nails it by like, I don't know, what was it, 23 100ths, something ridiculous.
27,000.
Oh God! I mean, you can't blink that quick, can you? What a great guy, though. I mean, I don't know what happened to him in the race. I was sort of looking down the list at the end, going, "Oh, okay." And I saw Brendan obviously had a mistake on the relative, and he dropped back, and sort of it all started to slot into place. And then, of course, you try not to think about the championship at that point, but it's hard not to. Yeah, it's always sort of ticking away in the back of your head, going, don't screw this one up, because like you did Suzuka and all this good stuff. But yeah, good fun one, really.
Oh, indeed. It looked a fun one for yourself. And like you're saying, qualifying so close to that pole position, but just missing out. And we did see Milton, Tomlinson-Dennis go a bit wide through turn 3, as you mentioned there. The fact you held that insole line for Estoril. And then he did subsequently go very deep into the hairpin and got caught with Raz Harper's car. Although, I do have to ask, when some of your rivals losing out and you open up a bit of a gap, backing off here is a bit of a challenging thing, because I suspect this Magny-Cours circuit is one whereby you've got to be in a certain mental zone to keep delivering laps, because it's hard to be consistent here.
Yes. It's very high risk through the chicanes, especially the first chicane. If you want to take it right, you're very much skirting slowdowns and stuff like that. So you've got to be really on it. In fact, even the final chicane as well, it's very easy. If you're going to be taking those curbs, it's very easy to get a slow down. So you've got to really practice it. I was really good, actually, the corner before the final chicane, braking quite deep and round that corner, which I don't think anybody else, when I was following and practicing quality, I don't think anybody else really got that corner. So there was a lot of time I was making up there. That I think probably myself and Milton had sort of worked out over the rest. I think that's probably the difference in quali. But in the race, yeah, it's just really hard, because like quali, I'll be riding all the curbs and letting it pull me around, and then flooring the throttle and all this kind of stuff, and controlling the rear if it's stepping out. And in the race, you don't want that. And then I think there was a lap caught up with Milton, who's just doing his, he's driving his race. And then it gets to the second chicane, and for some reason I'm just like, well, I'm just going to throw it left, and I then ended up full right lock for the next 50 meters very early on in the race. Absolutely code brown, because I thought that was it. It was going to spin, and it didn't. I managed to get it straightened up, and like I said, I had to give myself a really big telling off. Because there was no need for it, and then from then on it was just meter it. Just don't take too much risk.
Well, you definitely meted out a very good win, and in fact, it's a win that now moves you into the lead of the championship with 2 rounds to go. Of course, you're going to be the man to beat now going to Road Atlanta. How does that sound? Because you've been chasing all this season, but now you are leading.
Road Atlanta is going to be a close race. Everybody knows it. Petit Le Mans every year, so it's GT3s around there every year. It would be very difficult to get a good result. So whoever does get on that podium really deserves it. Donington is my local track. I live just down the road from it, so I know it quite well. I drove a lot in GT4s around there, so I know the circuit really well. I know the lines that I need to be taking, the extremities of the circuit. So I think, all being well, if I get an okay result at Road Atlanta, I should be okay for Donington. I should do all right there. But again, it can be quite a popular circuit, so it's really up to how much people want to practice at this point. I'll be putting the laps in myself, trying to get as much out of the car as I can. The Corvette's been brilliant. I'm really, really sorry that Leon wasn't there tonight. I think he would have had a good result as well. And as you say in your broadcast, I do use him as my sort of benchmark. Him and Milton are really great pedalers. So it's a shame he wasn't here. But hopefully he watches the broadcast and knows that the Corvette's coming good. So he'll be looking forward to the final 2 rounds as well. And given the points difference between Leon and myself, I don't think I need to worry too much if he's in front of me. So there's less risk that I need to be taking. I don't need to go sending it at the inside of anybody, but everybody else will be fighting, I'm sure, for the championship. And there's so many quick guys that I'm shocked actually that I'm even leading. So fair plays to everybody. I'm sure whoever eventually comes out on top thoroughly deserves it. But yeah, we'll see.
Oh, indeed, we will have to see. But just as we get ready to let you go and let you celebrate what is your second win of the season, I have to ask, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, bit of an interesting one this week. I'd like to shout out a guy from my team who left today, a guy called Sally Cantikin, absolutely wonderful developer who's been working with me for 5 years, supremely talented, and he's going to go on to absolutely amazing things. And we were all really, really sorry to see him go. But you know, when it's hard to keep hold of the really good ones, unfortunately. But yeah, no, real big shout out to him. Going to miss him. But yeah, we're all going out tomorrow night to have a few Panda Pops.
Well, I do hope you get to enjoy the time celebrating his departure and reminiscing on the good times. It sounds like it's a colleague of yours who will be dearly missed. But Richard, you definitely didn't miss today when it came to bringing home your second win of the season. Well done on a huge result, and what we look forward to seeing at Road Atlanta, whether you can continue the momentum and maintain that championship lead with only 2 rounds to go. But until then, my friend, have a wonderful evening and savour the victory today.
Thanks, Paul.
So here now from Richard Simnor from DCW Racing Blue, ladies and gentlemen. And over the moon with regards to the result, no doubt about it. And, well, talking about there the fact that really just having to make sure he was dialed in, not pushing too hard, but just driving at the right level of pace in order to be able to bring home what is his second win. Of course, a bit gutted not to see Leon Seeley out there, the fellow Corvette from Samantha Racing, and was also surprised at Milton Tomlinson-Dennis's early demise. But, of course, when the space was opened up at the front, he took it, and after that just managed the gap, although mentioned he did make it a little bit more scary than it needed to be towards the very end with the amount he backed off, but understanding maintained that gap and maintained the control in a Corvette that was definitely feeling quite light out there at a circuit that's very, very difficult to be consistent at. But also as mentioned there about the fact a lot of practice we needed with Road Atlanta being a circuit so many are familiar with Petit Le Mans every year, and Donington Park being one of those circuits where practice really pays off. So for Richard Simnor, he's definitely having to go back to the drawing board, get the practice in if he wants to stay ahead and make sure that championship comes to him. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now come to our second interview. We'll be right back very shortly and we'll reveal who it is. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for our second interview, we head to the club class. And joining me now in the interview room is going to be none other than Full Tilt Virtual Motorsports' Jordan Butler, who's been patiently waiting. Jordan, good evening to you. And you've not just been patiently waiting for this interview, you've been patiently waiting for your second podium of the season. You've finally achieved it. How does it sound?
Absolutely brilliant. Good evening. I can't believe that has actually happened, considering what happened in lap 1. I can't believe it.
Well, take us through what happened from your perspective in lap 1.
Well, I sort of saw in front of me, they went 3 wide, and obviously everyone's on cold tyres, so sort of just backed off, lifted off, and the car just went really, really light. And as soon as I turned, got on the throttle, it just went, and that was it. And the next thing was just to try and keep it out of the barrier as best I could, especially after last week with Suzuka being in it on lap 1.
Well, a difficult start for yourself, but like you say, got it back together, and well, you should never give up, and I think that's been the adage and the philosophy of Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. But if we dial it all the way back to qualifying, 4th place in class, 26th overall, one of your better qualifying points in recent history. What do you think that's made that happen? Is it the practice you put in, or just you like Magny-Cours, or something else entirely?
I only really started doing practice about yesterday. I only got the track yesterday, so I haven't really done too much practice. But since driving this track, genuinely, I absolutely love it. It's one of the better tracks that I clearly seem to be pretty quick at, and it just seems to flow quite well with me, and clearly with the way I drive and the Merc as well.
Well, all nicely clicking together with regards to the car and how you drive it. And coming back to it then, with regards to, of course, it all went wrong at the start of the race. So how did you mentally recover from it? Because, of course, a big spin like that can upset any driver, even the most composed, but it seemed not to affect you too much.
No, I'd say it did. For a good 5 minutes, I was just sort of driving in my own head of, oh my God, I can't believe I've done this. What have you done? But as soon as you sort of just get your head out of that mental block and you just see the cars in front and just focus on the cars in front, you can just kind of sort of forget about it and then just keep focusing.
Or fair play, getting your head down and focusing what's in front of you. Absolutely love it. Did you change your strategy at all to compensate for what happened?
No, I didn't actually. I was about to go into the pits when Eddie went in the pits, Eddie Theobald, and I thought actually I'll just go one extra just to see if I can sort of jump in, which worked perfectly. But it was to just sort of go right to the end of the fuel limit and then sort of just see where we are after that.
Oh, smart call, to be fair. Now, speaking of Eddie Theobald, the two of you definitely had quite a bit of battling for that final podium spot. We did see at one point you managed to squeeze ahead, and then he quite unconventionally decided to go all in over the curb of turn 14 to see if he could come back at you. I mean, it looked like it was absolutely hammer and tongs between the two of you.
He sort of put it up there and he just had enough space, and I got scared, so I sort of had to sort of give him the space that he was sort of half deserved. But it was just a really, really good battle. It was one of the best battles I've had so far.
Oh, fantastic battle between the two of you. But in the end, it did seem as though you got the upper hand with a little bit of pace and strategy, and after that could settle in for third place for the rest of the race. I mean, were you wondering where has he gone at this point?
Yeah, I did. I saw when I come out of the pits, he was about a second and a half behind me, and I thought, he's going to catch me here. And then I just sort of kept looking at the relative every couple of laps, and I kept seeing it slowly going further and further back. And then I thought, right, just no more mistakes. Just keep your head on the track. Don't think about anything else. No mistakes. There's no point going all out to try and get the best lap time. You just need to be consistent and just keep it going. And hopefully, that gap should stay stable, which it did.
Well, the gap remained stable, and in the end, as a result of bringing home this third place finish, what it does mean for yourself in the club championship, it may potentially actually move you, if not into fourth, very close to Chris Petty in fourth. And I've got to ask, how are you feeling with the way club is at the moment? Because, of course, coming into this round, Ashley Shark-Smith in third on 386 points. You go all the way to yourself at 332 points. You've got Rob Craig, Eddie Theobald, and James Fraser, and Steve Hughes, and Philip Harris not too far behind. I mean, it's technically right now an 8-driver fight for third place.
Yeah, I have been keeping my eye on that. It's very, very tight. I think the top two, they're just gone away. And then I think, like you said, everyone else is just fighting for best of the rest at the moment, and it seems to be getting closer and closer and closer every race, and the points are getting tighter and tighter. It's very, very interesting.
Well, it's being kept interesting, but of course we've got some interesting venues coming up. Next up, it is none other than Road Atlanta. How are you feeling for it?
I'm super excited for that one. I hope that I should be able to do pretty well on that one. I know Road Atlanta pretty well, and I'm just hoping that I can leave the season on the last two races on a high, because it's been a bit of an up and down season. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm super happy with my second podium, but I got the podium on my first race, and then from then on it's just sort of been up and down in form. So I just want to keep this sort of form going for the last two races, stay out of incidents, and just finish on a high.
All completely understandable to want to finish on a high, and we wish you all the best in your preparations for Road Atlanta to see if you can maintain the high of podiums and perhaps even a win. But just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast?
Yes, I would. I'd like to thank my girlfriend and my two kids for always supporting me. My best friend Liam, who normally always looks in on the broadcast and has a little watch. Full Tilt for letting me drive for them and represent them. Everybody at SRI behind the scenes that keep it going. You for the amazing broadcast that I watch. I watch all of them, even the GTEs. I watch it. I love it. So apart from all of that, I think that's everyone.
Well, if you haven't covered everyone, Jordan, to be fair, I'm sure those you haven't covered will know that you do mean well to cover them. But it's been brilliant to catch up with yourself today and to celebrate your second podium in the club class with you. Well done once again. A well-deserved result and a hard-fought one at that. We look forward to seeing you at Road Atlanta to see when you keep the momentum flowing. But until then, my friend, have a wonderful rest of your evening.
You too. Thank you.
So here now, ladies and gentlemen, from Jordan Butler, very happy full tilt virtual motorsport driver today. And talking out there the fact that it all went wrong right at the start, the car coming completely loose, didn't know what really happened, and went upset him a bit initially, but once he got his head back down, he definitely got on with the job. And in the end, enjoying a brilliant battle with Eddie Fearbold, but was able to beat him in the end through strategy and pace, and bring home that third place, his second podium of the season. I mentioned there about the fact he wants to now end this season on a high, knowing it is a huge fight right now for that third place spot, and indeed the remainder of the top 5 in the club class. The top 2 have broken away, but it's anybody's game to be in the final 3 spots for what will be one of the trophies, and Jordan Butler definitely keen to try and get his hands on one. But first, Road Atlanta, he's excited for it and hoping he's going to do well there, and we wish him well as he gets set to try and do so. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's off for our next interview we go. We'll be back very shortly. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we stay in the club class, but joining me now to celebrate his second win of the season club, it is none other than Jack Giles who joins me. Jack, good evening to you. What a round today. What a result to bring on home that second win of the season. You didn't have it easy, but you fended off your main rival in the championship, the man you're chasing down. But how does it sound to you to have beaten Adam Lynch in such a close race?
Firstly, thank you for having me in tonight. It was a tough race. I knew, same as every week, Adam is super quick, always at the front of the field. And I haven't really been in contention for a win since round 1, so it was really nice to be up there at the front with the pace that I got. It kind of surprised me. Adam didn't make it easy at all.
Now, you're saying there, surprised yourself with the qualifying lap. I mean, 23rd overall, second in class. Do you feel as though then perhaps you expected more drivers in the club class to be on the pace with yourself, or the fact that you were so close to Adam Lynch when he's been such a strong driver?
A mixture of both, really. I thought that obviously Adam's always at the front, but I wasn't expecting a gap from the rest of the pack, really. That kind of surprised me a bit. I don't know if that was just due to traffic or incidents, but I just had to make do with what I had, to be honest, and yeah, luckily came away with the win.
Now, speaking of that, you say you had to make do with what you have, but let's break it down a little bit, of course. Earlier in the race, Adam Lynch held the lead, but only a couple of places in front of you. There were a couple of pros and prams in between. It stayed that way. And then on lap number 4, if my memory serves me correctly, coming out to the Adelaide hairpin, there's a BMW in the middle of the road. Adam's parked up in front of it, and you very quickly snap to left and take the lead of the club class. I presume that was all on instinct. Or did you even notice what had happened until it happened?
No, it was very last second. Obviously, Adam got caught out with it. I was fortunate enough to have that split second longer to react to the incident ahead, and I was, same as every race, my eyes are on stalks for the first couple of laps because anything can happen. And clearly, it showed tonight. There was a lot of spinners, a lot of action early on in the race, more than usual. So I was like, okay, I just need to survive the first couple of laps. Fortunately, first in clubs fell on my lap really, and then it was just a case of trying to hold the lead. We kind of broke away from the rest of the pack really. Showed the pace that me and Adam had tonight, and Adam was always there. He was always in my mirrors. So it was it was tough. It was a tough race, but yeah, thankfully pulled through.
Well, indeed, you managed to pull through, and in that second stint, of course, after we saw you come out the pits leading by a small margin, yourself and Adam were battling, but Adam couldn't quite find a way through, and then we did have a group of inter-drivers come up behind. We had the likes of Alfred Kirsten in there. Also, I do believe it was none other than Sam Hockley and Adam Smith. And I have to ask, were you trying to perhaps back yourself and Adam into them to get them more involved?
That crossed my mind for a split second, and then I thought, no, it's just too risky. I couldn't risk losing the club win tonight, trying to back Adam up into the Inters. I knew I had the slight edge of pace on him, but I was making more mistakes than him, so I would sort of edge a gap and then he would close up and edge a gap. It was yo-yoing between half a second to a second every lap, really. But yeah, the Inter drivers catching up sort of made me a bit nervous because I didn't know if they had a lot more pace than me, because obviously if they got past Adam and then I've then got to contend with Inter drivers that are quicker than me, and I don't want to kind of trip over them and cost me a win that way. So I just tried to stay in front, just trying to put in fast laps. I think I put in the fastest lap in club towards the end of the race. And then I ended up in the gravel, and me and Adam almost got together, and then the Inter drivers really got involved. But luckily, I just about kept the win. But it was a bit of a brown pants moment there.
Oh, indeed, it was a bit of a scary bump, but you came out on top, and with your second win, and the gap between yourself and Adam Lynch slightly closed, but there's still more work to be done. 2 rounds remain. Next up, Road Atlanta. Do you think you can make it a third win there?
Well, I'm relatively new to iRacing, and like a lot of the tracks this season, I've not driven before. And Road Atlanta is another one that I've not driven before, so I'll have to put some laps in. Have to buy the track. Yeah, just knuckle down and just do what I can. I think that the overall championship in club is a bit out of reach with 2 rounds to go, but main thing is to just solidify that P2 in the championship, being my first season, and importantly as well the team's championship. You know, I really want to help the team get that top 5 finish and bring that trophy home.
Oh, fair play. Really appreciate you being open with your experience, but also your priorities for this season. The fact you're pushing really to secure that second place in club and help out the Euro Titans endurance team in the team's championship is absolutely brilliant to hear. And just before we do let you go, Jack, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Just the team, Euro Titans. They helped me out with a lot of stuff. Obviously, like I was saying, getting used to iRacing, they've really helped me sort of settle in the Porsche, especially in GT3. Yeah, really helped me so much. So thank you to everyone over there.
Oh, they'll appreciate the gratitude. And to be fair, Jack, for someone who's new to iRacing, you're doing an incredible job in the club class, it must be said. Keep it up. It's been great to see you take your second win today in such fierce competition from Adam Lynch. We'll see you at Road Atlanta to see whether you can make it 3 wins of the season there. But until then, have a lovely rest of your evening.
Thank you, Paul. Cheers.
So here now, ladies and gentlemen, from Euro Titans Endurance's Jack Giles, and well, crazy to think he's relatively new to iRacing, but very much supported by the team. He's doing such a great job currently in his performances, and particularly taking on Adam Lynch, who the two of them are in a bit of a class of their own. And yes, it's fair to say that Adam is a little bit ahead in terms of the pace and the consistency of results, but flip side of the coin is Jack hasn't been too far behind, and today, well, a bit of fortune was on his side with regards to what happened out of Adelaide for Joris Peter's team going around and Adam Lynch having to respond. But after that, fair game, and in the end, Jack Giles was able to hold off Adam Lynch relentlessly. Mentioned that he didn't want to try and back the two of them into the Interpack because he was worried about losing. He wanted to prioritise just defending of his own volition, and the Interrise then became part of it, which scared him a little bit. He said it was a bit of a brown pants moment there, which is the slang for it. You can guess what, but in terms of being a bit worried about things, but still the 157 driver able to bring home that win and definitely fended off Adam Lynch in a brilliant style. But will he be able to do it again at Road Atlanta? We'll have to wait and see, because he's definitely got to get himself up to the speed with a circuit that many will be familiar with and few will not, himself included. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got one more interview to come. We'll be right back for our final interview of the evening, and we are heading to the Interclass. Now, of course, we couldn't quite finish the day without speaking to one of our Inter drivers. So we've had pro and club representatives. We head to our second tier, and joining me now in the interview room is none other than Jared Love. Jared, good evening to you, and well, today, second place in the race after taking pole position. Perhaps mixed feelings a little bit, or perhaps shock from Luke van Goertel. It just seemed to be on a different planet when it came to race pace.
Yeah, shock. He was very, very, very fast in the race. I kind of knew I had a 4 place buffer at the start of the race to the next nearest Inter driver, and then by turn 2 he was ahead of me. So he had a lightning start. I don't know if it's lucky or he's just really good at start. So I've not really noticed him at all this season. How he's been starting races, but he got a really good run out of turn 2, turn 3, and he was away, and that was that. I wasn't catching him.
Well, before we talk a little bit more about the race, let's come back to qualifying. We did see in the early stages, it was a Scotsman on provisional pole, but it wasn't yourself, it was Kyle Roy. But then you found the time and found a couple of attempts ahead of Luke van Goertel. Were you happy with your qualifying lap, or was there more pace out there?
I definitely had more pace. I think there was 2 laps that I'd set prior to my best lap at the end there. They were about a 2 tenths quicker, and I just got held up. I thought I had a gap to whatever car was in front, and I'd caught them by the sort of turning up to the last couple of corners and just lost all the time. Obviously they're not obliged to get my way if they're on a hot lap as well. So yeah, there was more time, but yeah, I'm still happy to be pole. I think that's every race other than Spa that I've raced in that I've been pole. So it's something to be said about my qualifying pace. I think there's maybe some race pace and consistency that we're needing to work on, but yeah, delighted with P2 or sorry P1 in qualifying.
Well, indeed, that record, I think you are going to hold the record in a individual class in this series for the most pole positions at this rate. I'd have to double check that with the admins, whether we do have that information at hand, but I think it is up there if it's not the record, Jared. And then going into the race itself, of course, like you said, Luke van Goertel had that absolute lightning start and really bolting away. I mean, at that point, do you start to think, well, I need to chase him down? Or do you think, well, I'm still ahead of Bobby Moss, my main rival in the championship, so long as I stay where I am, I'm not losing, I'm still winning technically?
Exactly that. Yeah, nail on the head. I knew that Luke's obviously fast. He's as quick as me, if not quicker. But he's missed races, he's had incidents, so he's not in with a shout to win the championship. So I was just running my own race, doing what suits me best for the championship. Obviously, it'd been lovely to be ahead of him and him being P2. But I was the first couple of laps I was taking no risks at all. The worst thing that could happen to me would be to have spun out, and rather than gain 10 points by finishing up first over second, it's to lose 30, 40, 50 points by spiralling down the standings.
Well, smart call there in terms of focusing on the championship. And of course, Bobby was never too far away, particularly in the early stages. We constantly saw him oscillating around 1.5 to 3 seconds behind you. Did you feel the pressure from it at that point, or was it just I'm maintaining the pace and perhaps just putting a couple more attempts into a lap when you need to and then backing off to just keep the gap at a distance?
Yeah, pretty much that. I think I had the gap a bit higher initially, and there were some pro drivers that were behind me that they were wanting to get past. Obviously, they've got their own races to run, and other pro drivers they chased down. A few of them made some, not sketchy overtakes, but some optimistic moves is probably the polite way of putting it. Cost us both time in various hairpins and whatnot. So that got the gap down to 2 seconds or so, and from there it was just backing off that couple of percent, keeping it clean, looking after the tyres. I saved a lap of fuel to try and get an overcut just to make sure that gap was going to get maintained at pit stops as well.
Well, it's a very well managed race from yourself, and made sure that Bobby couldn't quite get close enough to be able to threaten you, even at the very end. And we did see you bring home that second place by 2 seconds, practically dead on the dot, come the finish line. So not quite the win, but a result that extends your championship a little bit more. And we then go to Road Atlanta in a week's time. How are you feeling for the roller coaster ride?
Yeah, good. It's a good track, brilliant track. It's got a real mix of everything. It's got fast corners, slow corners. Obviously, the downhill S's are brilliant, but can also murder you if you don't get them right. So looking forward to it. It's a really good track for racing. It's a good track for live. It's just a brilliant track. Looking forward to it. We'll see where the pace is at. We'll do what we always do, get a bit of practice in. See where we're losing time to more elite level drivers. and just get as quick as we can be and get that consistency nailed in.
Well, fair play. And I've got to ask, from a team's championship perspective, of course, it's the team DDK Racing with RaceStatBot.com. You've come into this round in second place. You're in a very tight fight for second with Eurotitans Endurance. Are the team happy? Because obviously it's been a bit of a tough day today for both Elliot and also Raz, but for yourself, you've maintained that run of podiums in the interclass. I mean, are you still looking at the championship crown, or is it now more of a focus of we're going to finish as runners-up?
Yeah, I don't think we're catching Glass Tech. I don't know how they've done today. They're obviously all in the other split. We're not catching them. They're light years ahead. We're not really focusing too much on the team championship. We're just trying to turn up and do what we can do. They've obviously not. I don't think Adam, Philip, or Jack are in either of our classes. I think they all might be club class. I might be wrong. So we can just do what we can do. I can come in, get high scoring finishes, and hopefully Elliot and Raz can do the same. It was a unfortunate one today. Elliot got rear-ended at the start, the first hairpin after the straight. I don't know if he had damage, but he obviously then spun at the end of that lap, and as a result of that rear end, I think he had to run wide, which puts Raz wide, and then he got in a tangle with Milton, who was sort of half off track. It was that became a racing incident, but yeah, they certainly weren't happy about the being rear-ended, which kind of was a sort of a domino effect almost for what happened to Raz.
Oh, fair play. A bit of a frustrating day for your teammates, but not for yourself. But really good to hear that you're really pushing as a group for that second place in the team's championship. And just as we get ready to let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
A shout out to yourselves. Broadcasts are fantastic. The league getting run. I'm not sure if we'll be back for next season, but it'll be in the summer. But I'd love to. Let's see if I can sort of carve out the time in my busy life schedule with family and work. Shout out to the wife, kids. My daughter's 4, but she loves hearing about how I'm getting on. She drew me a wee picture tonight to say good luck, albeit it had the number 2 on it, which I was like, surely it should say number 1, but maybe she was foreshadowing the position I'd end up in.
Oh, goodness me. We'll roll with that your little one has predicted where you finished. I can tell you one thing, Jared. It's great to see you've got all the family behind you. Thank you for joining me in the interview room this evening, and well done on second place day in the interclass. We look forward to seeing you out there at Road Atlanta going for glory and seeing whether you can perhaps put the championship to bed with a round to spare. But until next week, have a lovely evening, and thank you once again.
Cheers, Paul. Good night. See you later.
So hearing there, ladies and gentlemen, from Jared Love, the DDK with RaceStatBot.com, into runner-up today, and admitting that after the start of the race, he didn't know where Luke van Goertel's pace had come from, but it had arrived, and his focus was all about making sure the man behind him, who you do see in the rear of these replay pictures, Bobby Moss, could not get close enough to threaten him for that second place. As long as you're beating your main rival in the championship, you are winning. And that was the thought process here, because it is between those two for the crown by looks of things. And for Jared Love, he got it all right. Absolutely pleased with his qualifying pole position, and well, I do believe the more we're digging into it at the moment, he is now, subject to the next round or two, he is on course for what would be the record for most pole positions in a class over a season in the Thursday GT3 Championship. And what a record that's going to be. It's only been the 1 lap pace man. We didn't have an answer for Luke van Goertel today, but to be fair, did he really need one? Perhaps not, but understandably with 2 rounds remaining, he might want to find just some answers to it in case he does need to bring home another win. But looking good so far, and well, admitting there as well that for the DDK Racing team, the focus is very much on that second place in the championship, but a lot of work to be done by the pro drivers after a miserable day in the office for them, and a lot of frustration. Well, will that frustration turn to fruition next time out? We'll have to wait and see. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. And we've had 4 brilliant interviews with 4 very different drivers from 3 of our classes, and so let's give you a quick recap of who exactly we've spoken to. And so today we had the opportunity firstly to catch up with our Pro Class winner, making it his 2nd win of the season, Richard Simnor for DCW Racing Blue. Then we went to the Club Class and we spoke firstly to the man who finished 3rd place today, taking his 2nd podium of the season, his 2nd 3rd place, Jordan Butler for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsports. And then we went to the Eurotitans Endurance driver, your winner today in the Club Class, holding off Adam Lynch by a hair. It was Jack Giles. Then we made our way into the Interclass, into our 2nd tier, in between Club and Pro, and it was to your run-up today, Jared Love, who put the car on pole, but didn't have a response for Van Gortel's pace in the race, but still very happy at second place. We can't blame him for it. A huge thank you to all 4 of them for joining me in the interview room this evening, and well done to all for their great performances. We look forward to plenty more interviews with our drivers in the rounds remaining. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you've enjoyed today's show and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about SimRacing International as a community and how you can get on the grid here at the SimRacing International in any of our series or any of our events, all you got to do firstly is join our official Discord. Invite link at the very bottom of your screen. It's very straightforward, discord.gg/SimRacing International. Join there and you can be part of the community, and you can join any of our ongoing or upcoming series, including brand new seasons that are on the cards, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, of course, for our Thursday GT3 Championship, our Premier Series, which you'll be tuning into tonight. And Season 12 consists of the Masters and the Superstar splits, and we're definitely going to have 2 splits when we go to Season 13. On Friday evenings, we do have our GTE Championship coming towards the end of its 2nd season, and the details gradually being unveiled for Season 3 at the moment, starting off with those currently racing on the grid for Season 2, and all we'll tease you with, and make sure you tune into tomorrow night's broadcast if you're a GTE fan, and if you want to know what's going down in Season 3, because we've got plenty to reel, but let's just say this, we're going longer with the races in Season 3. Significantly longer, but the whole theme of getting the most out of the GTs will remain the same. But if you're a big GT3 fan, and you prefer to race on the weekends, perhaps you've got Sunday evenings free, well, of course, you can get on the grid for the UK Sim Racing Sunday Showdown. That's currently in its 18th instalment, and we're about to get the Showdown rounds of that season underway, starting live from Circuit side this Sunday. So therefore, definitely check those out, because that's going to be the key theme of Season 19 as well. But if you want something far more casual, something you don't have to pay to enter, perhaps you want to dip your toes into league racing format, of course, we have three races per week in our practice league that runs on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Saturdays. There's something for everybody here at SimRacing International, and we'd love to see you on the grid. We're an esports professional all the way through to a rookie racer. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who do include CarMate, Mon Technology, the GP2 Group, and lastly, we'd like to give a big shout out to Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue here at SimRacing International throughout 2026 and beyond. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we now look to next time, and with 2 rounds remaining. Next up is the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta, and with mixed conditions on the cards, it's anybody's guess what the conditions will be when we do head to the US state of Georgia for the Brazelton Town Circuit. But one thing's for certain, when it's undulations, it's rises and falls, and sweeping bends, many of them blind, it is going to be a round where everything could very much be on the line, and it could suddenly throw a complete span in the works to those who are championship favourites. And in the pro class today, we have seen Richard Simnor take over the lead, and this time open up quite a lead with Milton Tomlinson-Dennis only managed in the end what was a 7th place finish in the pro class, but can he now hold on to it with 2 rounds to go? In the interclass, Jared Love, despite missing out on the win, has further disadvantage over Bobby Moss, but expect Bobby Moss to come back strong in the rounds that remain. And as for the club class, well, Jack Giles may have chiselled a little bit into Adam Lynch's lead. The lead is very much with Adam Lynch still, and it seems though right now nobody can stop the 167 drive and potentially wrapping things up in a week's time. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, you'll have to tune in on Thursday the 28th of May 2026 to see how the story continues round number 9 and 10. And until then, we have been SimRacing International. You've been tuning into the Superstar split of our Thursday GT3 Championship Season 12, and I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.